Hey guys, Joy here. Today we're gonna build a practical project using React.js. So this is the project that we're gonna build today. As you can see that it is a mortgage calculator. This course is excellent for beginners who are trying to learn React.js. Even if you never learned React.js before, don't worry. I'm gonna teach you everything, step by step, in details in this video. So watch this video till the end. Now let me explain how our project works. Let's say, as an example, I want to purchase a house which is worth $5,000. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set my slider to $5,000, something like this, okay? And now let's say that I don't have that much cash. I only have $2,000. So what I will do, I'm going to set $2,000 here as down payment. So what will happen to the other $3,000 that I don't have? Normally, I'm going to take a loan of $3,000. So I'm going to set it up here as $3,000. Now let's say that I want to change my mind. I want to decrease the loan amount. So if I decrease it here, you can see that automatically the down payment will increase. On the other end, if you increase your loan amount, something like this, you can see that the down payment will decrease. But at the end of the day, if you add up both of them, you will get $5,000. Then we can set up an interest rate. Let's say that I want to take this loan at an interest rate of 7%. So I'm going to set it up here like this. Lastly, we have to set up the tenure. So what is the tenure? The tenure is the amount of time you're taking this loan for. So I'm going to set it up to, let's say, 10 years. Now automatically on the right side, we can see the amount of money we have to pay to the bank per month. This is our monthly installment, which is almost $36. Below this one, we have a pie chart which indicates our principal and interest amount. If I put my mouse on the red shade, you can see the principal is $5,000, which is basically the total value of our house. And if I put my mouse on the blue shade, you can see the interest amount, which is how much? It's almost $1,220. This is the amount of interest you're paying in the span of 10 years. Likely, if you increase or decrease the slider, you can see on the right side, it updates automatically. So this is basically how our app works. Now let's discuss about all the things that we're going to learn in this course. The very first thing that we're going to learn are functional components. So what are functional components? Let me give you an example. If I come back to my project, do you see these components here? Do you see these pieces? These things are actually called functional components. So we're going to learn how to build them using React.js. Then we will learn how to use Material UI with our React application. Now guys, if you never tried Material UI before, then don't worry guys, I'm going to teach you this one. For now, let me give you an example what Material UI is. So this is the official website of Material UI. Guys, do you see all of these components? These are ready-made for you. All we have to do is we just copy this command, install it on our terminal of our React app, and then freely use any of these components. There are a lot of components besides these things inside this MUI library. Do you see our project? I took these components from Material UI so that we can save time. Then we're going to look into how to handle props and how to destructure props. So what are props? Let me give you a small example. If I go back to my project, do you see all of this data? Home value, $5,000, $1,000, down payment, $4,100. All the data you're seeing in this project are considered as props. So where do we pass the props? We pass the props into our functional components. So we're going to learn that as well. How to pass the props on functional components. Then we're going to learn how the useState hook of React works. Guys, do you see all of this data here? Like $5,000, $1,000, $10,000, $4,100. How am I managing all of these calculations? I am doing all of these calculations using the useState hook of React. Besides all of these main topics, we're going to learn a lot in this course. This tutorial will run according to these chapters. Timestamp will be given in the description down below. Alright guys, before coding, first of all, we need to set up our environment. To do that, we're going to right click, create a new folder. Then we will call it mortgage calculator. Mortgage. Make sure that everything will be in small letters. Okay, don't use any capital letters. And instead of putting a space, just use a minus. Mortgage minus calculator. If we don't follow these naming systems, then React will not work actually. So mortgage minus calculator. Okay. Then what we're gonna do? We're gonna right click. If you are on Windows 11, then click on show more options. Then you will get this option called open with VS Code. If you don't have it, then do one thing. Just open VS Code manually, and then there's option called open folder. then we will go to desktop, then we will select the mortgage minus calculator. Okay, then we will select folder like this. It's gonna open the folder on VS Code. Okay, next up we need to install React on our folder. So how do we do it? Let me show you. We're gonna go to Google, create React app. Okay, then we're gonna find a lot of pages. This is the official website. You can use this one or you can use this one. Both of them are right. I'm gonna open this one. Next up, we're gonna click on get started, and then on this getting started page you will find the command. So I'm gonna copy this first line of command, then I'm gonna come back to my VS Code, I'm gonna open the terminal, and then I will just paste it here like this. Guys, don't hit enter. Do not hit enter. I need to explain a little bit here. Do you see my app? So if you write this my app, or if you write whatever you wish, as an example something like this, so what's gonna happen is that a new folder will be generated here, which we do not want because we already have a folder. Why do we want another folder, which is totally unnecessary? So what do? We just put a dot like this. Okay, so if we put a dot, what's gonna happen is that React will get installed on this folder, the mortgage minus calculator folder. Okay, so I'm gonna hit enter. After writing this and hitting enter, you will see that React is getting installed on our system. It's gonna take a couple of minutes, so let's wait for it. And now we can see that React has been successfully installed on our folder. After the successful installation of React, we can see all of these files and folders. So in order to start the server, what we have to do, we have to write npm start and hit enter like this. Once the React server has been started, it's gonna automatically take you to this address, localhost 3001. If it doesn't automatically open on your browser, what you can do, you can just come back to VS Code on the terminal. You see this one, local http something localhost 3001. Just copy this one and go to any of your favorite browser. Just come over here, paste the link, and it's gonna open up this page. Do you see all of these, guys? These are called boilerplate code, which we don't need. So in order to remove this boilerplate code, what we can do, we can come back to our VS Code. Let me zoom in a little bit, okay, so that you can see it better. There we go. Alright, so now I'm going to go to the source. I'm going to go to my app.js, and then you see all of these codes. We don't need them. We only need this div with the class name app. So what will I do? Look at this one. I'm going to place my mouse here like this. Now can you see this one here? There's a little chevron here. I'm going to close this one like this. Now I can easily select both of them, and I'm going to remove all of them, and I'm going to write here hello everyone. Save it. Let's see the result. I'm going to go back to my browser, and if I refresh, there we go. Can you see this one here? Hello everyone. If you want to zoom in to your browser, just hit Ctrl on your keyboard and scroll your mouse like this. Now you can see that I'm zooming in. If you want to zoom out, same process. Hit Ctrl on your keyboard and scroll out using your mouse wheel like this. There we go. It's zooming out. Okay, so I'm going to keep it up to this portion. I'm going to go back to my VS Code here, and then do you see this one here? Logo and this import app CSS. I don't need both of them, so I'm just going to remove them, and I'm going to keep it like this. Okay, save it. Let's see the result. There we go. Okay, the CSS, the default CSS is gone. Next up, we will remove some files that we don't want, like this app CSS. We don't want this, so we're going to click on this one and we're going to delete. We don't need app test.js. We're going to delete that one. We don't need index CSS. Let's delete that. We don't need the logo. It's going to go away. So once that's done, let's go to the browser and see the result. You can see that we have a small error. It says that they can't resolve index CSS in where? In the source folder. Specifically where? On the index.js. Let's go to the index.js, which is here, and you can see that since we removed index CSS, so it's not gonna find the file. Let's remove that, save it. Let's look at the result. It will now look something like this. All the styles are gone because I deleted all the index CSS files. Next up, we're going to install Material UI on our React app. Guys, do you see this finalized project? I made the entire UI using Material UI. If we go to the official website, which is MUI.com, then you can see this page. Can you see all of these components? Look how beautiful they are. All of these things are ready-made. So how do you use it? Just install this one, copy the component, paste it, and then customize the way how you want it. This is how big companies save their time. In the same way, we're gonna save our time as well. If you don't know Material UI, then don't worry guys, I'm gonna teach it to you step by step. First of all, we need to install this command, you see. So we're going to click on this one. So it's going to copy the command for us. Then we're going to go back to our VS Code. We're going to open the terminal. And guys, don't stop this server. This is already running. Okay, so in order to install our Material UI, what we do, just click on the plus. It's going to open you a second terminal. You see, on this terminal, your server is running. And on the other one, you can do whatever you wish. So I'm going to paste it and then I'm going to hit enter. So what it's going to do is going to install Material UI on my React app. Now you can see that Material UI has been successfully installed on our React app. Then what do? We will implement the dark mode into our project. If you go back to our finalized project, guys, look at this. You see, it is in dark mode. How did I do it? I did it using Material UI, and I'm going to teach you the same thing as well. Don't worry. We'll go back to the Material UI website. We'll go to docs, and then we'll click on Material UI from the MUI core. Or what you can do, you can just click on get started like this. Do you see this left panel? Here we'll go to customization, and then we'll click on dark mode like this. It's going to open up this page where all the instructions are given. Okay, so in order to implement this into our project, follow along, guys. We'll go to our file structure here, and then at the root level, which is here, just click on here one time and then create a new file. Let's call it theme.js, something like this. Okay, let's close this terminal. Let's go back to the website, and now do you see this one? The instructions are given. I'm going to copy up to this portion. Okay, I don't need all of them, just copy this portion. Let's come back here and then let's paste here. Now can you see this portion here which is not highlighted? Look at this, create theme is highlighted, but this portion is not highlighted, which means this is not used on this file. Let's remove this one, and do you see this CSS baseline? I don't need it here, so I'm just going to remove this one like this. This is const dark theme. Let's write here only theme, and then let's export it like this. So what's happening inside this palette is that we're telling Material UI that we want to enable dark mode to our React app. But if you want light mode, then you just write light like this. But we're going to keep it to dark mode. Okay. Besides, you can do all sorts of customization inside here. Let me show you something from the documentation. If you come back to the website and then if you go to default theme, if you are using light mode, then don't tick this. But if you are using dark mode, which we are doing, then we're going to tick it like this. Okay. These are the default styles of your Material UI. You can customize any of this portion. As an example, if I click on typography, look at this. What is the default font size? 14 pixels. What is the default font family? These are the default font family. You can customize any of this portion. In the future, I'm going to create a dedicated video tutorial that will teach you how to customize Material UI using these things. So stay tuned. So turn the notification on so that you can get the latest updates on my videos. Alright, now back to my dark mode. What we have to do, we have to copy this again. Okay. Then we go back to our VS Code. This time we will go back to our index.js. Here we will paste the two lines that we copied. Okay. Do you see this theme provider? I need this theme provider right now. At the same time, on the theme.js, do you see that we have created a const theme? I need to import this one inside here as well. If you don't export it, guys, then you cannot import it here. Let me import it like this. Look, import, okay, THE. If you don't see these options, this is called IntelliSense. Then do this. You hit Control space together. Then you can see the options again. And now we're going to scroll down up to this portion. You see, it's written small letter theme. Where is this coming from? This is coming from /theme, which is basically this file. Okay. So we're going to hit Control space again because it's gone. Then we're going to scroll down up to that portion here. So if I click on this one, you can see that it's going to automatically write me the code. Now, do you see this theme provider? I have to copy this one and I have to wrap the app around the theme provider. This is a rule. This is actually in the documentation here of Material UI. So let's wrap it around like this. I'm going to write an angle bracket and then I'm going to paste the theme provider. And now guys, look at this. The moment I close the tag, look, automatically the closing tag will be written for me. How am I doing this? There is a plugin named auto close tag. So let me show it to you. Auto close tag. This is the one. So what it does is going to automatically close the tag for you. So you can install it and you can use it to save some time. Let me close this one and let's come back here. You see this portion? I'm gonna cut it, Control X. I'm gonna wrap the app like this. And now inside the theme provider, I'm gonna pass a theme like this. Okay? Which theme am I gonna pass? I'm gonna pass this theme, which I created on this theme file. Okay? I'm gonna pass it like this. And in order to format the code, what you can do, you can just right click, you can select this one, format document, and it's gonna automatically format the code for you. Okay? After saving everything, let's look at the result. If I come back to the result screen, it's gonna show me some error. Let's read it. What's written? You attempted to import theme which falls outside of the source directory. You see? So we have mistakenly used the theme outside the source directory, and it's recommending us to put it inside the source folder. So let's do it. Let's come back to our VS Code. Okay, so what do? We just click on this one, and then we drag the source theme inside the source like this. Okay, and then we come back to our index.js. It's gonna automatically update it for you. If it doesn't update, then do this. Just remove this one and then manually place it like this. / then theme. Okay, save everything. Let's look at our result and let's refresh. Now you can see that, guys, there is no changes. Why don't we see any dark theme on our app? That's because, guys, no matter whatever you do, you can never see Material UI getting implemented on your system unless you use this one, CSS baseline. If you don't put it on your project, you can't see any changes from Material UI. So what do we have to do? Just copy this one, and then you can put it anywhere. You can put it after the app, or you can put it before the app. Both of them are correct. Let's put it here. Okay, something like this. And then you can format the code like this. Save it. Let's look at our result. Now there you go. You see, dark mode from Material UI has been successfully implemented on our project. If you zoom in, then look at the font family. You see, even the font family changed. This font family is coming from Material UI. So guys, we have successfully implemented Material UI to our project. Now we're gonna work on the folder structure. In order to work with the folder structure, let's create a folder here named components. Okay, components. So here we're gonna keep all of our components. Now let's go back to our finalized project. Look at this one. It's zoomed in. So we have to zoom out. So you can just click on this one and you can reset like this. Okay, there we go. We're back. Now let's name our components one by one. Do you see this portion? We will call it Navbar. And below the Navbar, do you see this entire portion? Let's divide this entire portion into two portions. Left portion will be this one. This will be the right portion. Okay. The right portion, we will name it result component. And the left portion, okay, you can see two more parts. Do you see this one? This is a separate component, and this entire thing is a separate component itself. So we will call this one tenure select, and we will call this entire portion as slider select. Let's reflect this into our VS Code. Okay, inside the components, we're gonna make the navbar. Okay, navbar.js, and inside here, since this is blank, we're gonna write some code, RAFCE. Then we're gonna hit tab like this. So how did I generate this? There's a plugin. If I come here to the extensions, we're gonna write here ES7, and let's wait. Do you see this portion here? ES7 plus something. I'm gonna open up this one. This is written by this person. If you install this plugin, then you're gonna get a lot of snippets. Let me show it to you again. So on the navbar, I'm gonna remove everything, and now I will write R for React. AF means arrow function. C for component, E for export. Now I'm gonna hit tab like this. Then it's gonna write me code automatically. So this plugin is a time saver. Install it and save your time. Let's come back to my navbar. I'm gonna save it. Okay. Let's go back to the file structure again. Then what was the second component? It was result.js. Okay, result.js. And here what we're gonna do, we're gonna write RAFCE like this. If you don't see this option, then what we can do, you can hit Control space together. Then you're gonna hit tab like this. Save it, done. Let's go back to our browser. So what was this called? It was called tenure select. And this was called slider select. Let's make those two files. So first one will be tenure select.js, and the other one is called slider select. Slider select.js. And there we go, slider select and tenure select.js. these files are empty. So what we have to do, we have to write RAFCE like this. Okay, this is slider select, save it, and then close it. On the tenure select, RAFCE tab, save it, and then close it. Okay, now let's go back to our browser to the finalized project. Can you see this slider, guys? Can you see that this is very identical to this one? All of the sliders are identical to each other, which means that there is a chance that we might repeat the same code again and again and again and again. In order to stop our code repetition and in order to reuse the same component into multiple places, what we do, we will make another file. We will call it slider component. Do you see this portion? We will call it slider component. Okay. In order to reflect that into our VS Code, let's come back here, and on the components, let's create a file called common. Okay, why do we call it common? That's because in our project, there are a couple of code and couple of UI that looks very identical, which are used again and again and again and again. So in order to stop the repetition, what we do, we create a folder, we call it common, because these things are very common in the UI. And what did we name it? We named it slider component.js. So we'll come here, we're going to create a new file, slider component.js. There we go. Slider component.js. And here we're going to write RAFCE tab, save it, and then close it. So once these files are created, next up what we have to do, we have to go to our app.js and import all of these files here and implement them here. Let me show you how it's done. First of all, I'm going to remove the hello everyone and I will import the navbar. Follow along with me. Angle bracket, nav. If you don't see these options of IntelliSense, then do it like this. Control space together. And you can see all the IntelliSense options. Do you see this one? Navbar, which is coming from components navbar. If I click on this one, automatically it's gonna import me the code. You see? Then I can close it like this. There we go. Okay, so below the navbar, we're gonna import the slider select, something like this. Look, angle bracket, slider select. Guys, can you see it here? I don't have the auto completion option. So what do I have to do? I have to import it manually like this. Import slider select, which will come from where? It will come from the components, /components/ you can see that slider select is here. Okay, then what do? We copy this one, we put it here, and then we close the tags like this. There we go. Okay, below this one we will import the tenure like this. Tenure, you can see that I don't also get the option. So what do? I do the same thing again. Import tenure select from where? From the same component folder like this. Okay, it will now go to my tenure select file. Just copy this one again, put it here, and close the tags like this. Save it, done. And finally, I'm going to import the result.js file into my app.js file like this. Look, angle bracket, RESU. You can see that I get the option right here. You see, result, which will come from components result. I'm going to click on this one. It's going to automatically import it for me. There we go. Now I just have to close the tags like this. Save it. Now let's look at the result. Our result will now look something like this. You see, this is my navbar here, slider select, tenure select, and the result. So guys, our folder structure is complete. Alright guys, next up we're gonna build a navbar and it will look something like this. So where did I get this navbar from? I got it from Material UI. Let's go back to their website, which is MUI.com, and then do you see this search bar? We're gonna click on this one and then we write here app bar like this. Then below the components you can see the result. Let's select this one and you can see that we have a lot of options for app bar. Like this one, this is the basic one. Then you have another one with a login logout option. You get another one with a logo and a profile picture, and another one with a search bar. You have a lot of options, but we want to keep our project as simple as possible. So we'll use the basic app bar. How do I get the source code of this component? Do you see this icon? We will select this one. Then we get the entire source code for this component. But we don't need the entire thing. Why? That's because do you see this login? This is a button and this is an icon. We don't need the icon. We don't need the button because we want to keep it as simple as possible. So what do I need? I need only the app bar, toolbar, and the typography. Okay, so let's copy this portion from here. Let's go back to our VS Code, and where do I write our code? We will write it down inside the navbar.js. So let's come here and then let's paste our code here. Let's go back to the website again. And which lines do I need now? We need these two lines. Copy them. Let's come back to our VS Code, paste them here, and let's go back to the browser again. This time, do you see this box component? We don't need the box. We need the app bar. So do you see here? We're gonna select starting from here up to this portion. Make sure that you don't copy the box. Okay, let's go back to our VS Code here. We're gonna remove this div from here and paste our code like this. Okay, but look at this, guys. There are a couple of errors in our code. Like, look at this button. If I put my mouse here, it says that button isn't defined. Why is this happening? If I go back to my browser, look at this one. They are importing a button from the MUI material package, which we are not importing. That's why it's saying this error. But we don't need a button. We're going to remove this one. And if we go back here, do you see that they are using a icon here, which we don't want as well? So that error is actually showing up here, you see? So we're going to remove it like this. There we go. Let's save the code and make sure, guys, that you are importing the navbar inside the app. Here's it. Otherwise, we can't see the result. Okay, once everything is done, let's see our result on the browser. It will now look something like this. Can you see that, guys? We have our navbar, which is a slightly different color compared to our background color. And we have the logo text here, which says news. We're going to change this to Bank of React. Okay, let's do that right now. We're going to go back to our VS Code and back to the navbar. Do you see this news? And instead of the news, we're going to write here Bank of React like this. Okay, but guys, where did I write this? I wrote it inside a component named typography, which is given to you by Material UI. I'm going to explain this to you right now. But first, let me save the code and let's see the result. It will now look something like this. You see, Bank of React. Okay, now let me explain you why do we use the typography component from Material UI. In order to keep the styles of your font consistent throughout the entire application, we use the typography component from Material UI. In order to explain this further, let me give you an example. Okay guys, first of all, let's see the normal way of doing things. How do we style a regular text inside our application? So what do? Normally, we create a div with the class name blank, something like this. Okay, as an example, we write here something. Okay, so how do we style this text in the application? We attach a class name here, and according to the name, we target it inside our style CSS, and then we attach styles like font family, font weight, font size, etc. That's the normal way of doing things. The second option is inline styles. What do? We write here style equal to double curly bracket, and then we attach, as an example, color. We're going to give it a color of red, something like this. We're going to give it a font size of, let's say, 90 pixel. Okay, 90 pixel. Save it. Let's look at the result. It will now look something like this. You see, our something text is red in color. At the same time, the font size is 90 pixel. This is the way how we do it normally in React. But how do we use the typography component of Material UI? You are given a couple of attributes. Do you see this variant? This is called attribute. Do you see this component? This is called attribute. Do you see this style of the div tag? It's called attribute. Whatever you can see before the equal to sign, it's called attribute. Whatever you see after the equal sign, these are called values. Okay, this is called an attribute. This is called a value. So the typography component of Material UI gives you a couple of attributes like variant, component, so on and so forth. So what do you do with the variant? Using this variant, you select font size. Okay, you see this one, it is written H6. So if I remove this one, if I hit Control space, you can see that these things are predefined for you. You see, body 1, body 2, button, caption, H1 up to H6. These are predefined for you. Not only that, you can customize these things. I will show you example. How do you customize these things? Okay. So when these things are predefined, when these things are customizable, it means that you can keep the design consistency in your application. As an example, I will use the H1 tag. Okay, something like this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to save it. So it is saying what? Bank of React. So I'm going to see this text in H1. Let's see the result. There we go. Can you see that it is bank of React in h1 value, and it got very big. Likewise, if I come back here, I'm gonna remove the h1 from here. Let's hit Control Space together. Do you see this one here? Subtitle 1. I'm gonna select this one like this. And now subtitle 1, save it. Now look at the result. Can you see that it became very small? Just like that, you have a lot of options for the variant. I'm gonna select h1. Okay. Now it became like this. Okay. So I told you another point, like these things are customizable. How do you customize these things? Let me teach that to you as well. If I come back to the Explorer, File Explorer, look at this one. Do you see this theme.js? We already configured it. So let's open it up. This is the place where we define our designs and styles for the entire application. Right now, I'm going to teach you how do you customize these things, the typography. How do you do it? Okay. For that, let me show you from the official documentation so that you don't forget it. Okay. So here, what I'm going to do, I will first of all go to MUI. Okay. MUI.com like this. Let's select Get Started. And then guys, you can see something called default theme. Do you see this one? We're going to click on this one and then it's going to take us to this page. So what is this, guys? This is an object where it's going to show you all the default configuration, default styles, default color of your material UI. You can customize anything from here. Let me show you how it's done. First of all, if you are not using dark theme, don't click this one. But if you are using dark theme, then you select this one. We're going to select this because we are using dark theme. Okay. What do I want to customize? I want to customize the typography. Do you see this one? So I will open up this one. This is an object. Okay. Let me open up this one. Do you see? These are the default configuration. Okay. The font size is 14 pixel. The font family is Roboto. Font HTML font size is 16 pixel. Font weight, light, regular, so on and so forth. Then do you see these options? H1, H2, H3. These things I showed it to you. Do you remember? Let me go back to VS Code on the Navbar. Here is it. Okay. If I remove this one, Control Space, you get all the options. All of these are customizable. So I will keep H1. Okay. I'm going to customize the H1 and show it to you as an example. Okay. Let's come back here. How do I target the typography inside my theme.js? Let's come back here. Here's my theme.js. Okay. Below the palette, if you write TY, you can get this auto suggestion. If you don't see this, then hit Control Space together. Then you get it. Okay. Typography and now colon curly bracket. So why did I make it in the format of an object? Why? That's because, guys, it is an object. Do you see this one? It's written here. It's an object. That's why I wrote here in the format of an object like this. There we go. Next up, what will I target inside here? I'm going to target H1. Where is my H1? It is here. It is also in the format of an object. Then do you see all the default styles for this H1? Look at this. Font size, it is 6 rem. So how much is 6 rem? Let me calculate this one for you. Okay. So if I bring up my calculator, which is this one. So 6 multiplied by, what is the default? The default is 16 pixel like this. 6 multiplied by 16, it is 96 pixels. So if I come back here, do you see this bank of React? It is 96 pixels in size. Okay, that's how you do your calculations. So I'm going to target this one and make it 12 pixels. Okay, let's come back here. And what will I make? H1 colon curly bracket. So guys, why did I write this in the format of an object? Same answer. Look at the website. It's given in the format of an object. Okay. Next up, what will I target here? I'm going to target the font size. If you hit Control Space, you can get all the options. What do you want to customize? But I want font size. This one. So how much will I make? I'm going to make it as an example. Okay, 12 pixel. Now save it and then let's look at the result. It will now look something like this. You see, our bank of React became very small. It is 12 pixel. So guys, this is the way how you customize your typography component of Material UI. At the same time, this is the way how you keep your styles and design consistent throughout the entire application. Do you know how professionals use Material UI in the real world scenario? So what happens is that you will be first of all given a Figma design. The Figma design carries all the style rules, colors, font family, font weight, font size, background color, etc. It carries all the design rules and principles. So what professionals do is that they make the theme.js file and they configure all the colors, font size, font family, etc. here. Once the style rules are configured in one single place, then they freely use these components like this from Material UI. Now do you understand how to keep consistency in your design throughout the entire application? You can do that through the help of Material UI. I hope you understood, guys, that why learning Material UI is a very valuable skill. So guys, we're done explaining the variant attribute, how to work with it and how to customize this. We're gonna move on to our component attribute. Look at this one, guys. It's given the value div. What does it mean and how to work with it? Let me explain, everyone. First of all, let's see the normal way of doing things. Do you see this one here? How do you write some text inside the application? First of all, you select a tag and then you write something. What did you do first? You selected a tag. In this scenario, it is a div tag. Likewise, you can also select a p tag. P tag stands for paragraph tag. Or you can select a span like this. At the end, what do? You also rename it here like this. Likewise, if you are using typography component from Material UI, this is actually optional for you to write. But if you want to select a tag, you pass the component attribute and then whatever you need. As an example, I need an anchor tag. I'm gonna write here a. Likewise, if you need a span, you write here span. If you need a div, you write here div. If you need something else like p, you write here p tag. Alright guys, I hope you understood how to work with the component attribute. We're gonna move forward to the SX attribute. What is this and how to work with it? Using the SX attribute, you can style the typography component coming from the Material UI. Not only that, guys, using this attribute, you can style any and every component coming from your Material UI. First of all, let's see the normal way of doing things. How do you style this span, which has the text saying something? How do you style this? You have two options. You can use the class name or you can write inline styles using this one. And if you are using Material UI, using this SX, you style this one. Let me show you an example, okay? So I'm going to make this color blue, okay? Save it. Let's see the result, okay? Now, do you see this bank of React? It became blue, but it's not visible, right? Let me come back to my theme.js and do you see this typography? I'm going to comment out like this, okay? Let's see the result. Now you see, we get the default styles at the same time. Now it is which color? This is blue in color. Now let's make the font weight different. I'm going to put here a comma and we're going to write here font weight. Let's say 700, okay? Save it. Let's see the result. Now you see it became bold. So this is the way how you change the styles of your typography component. So guys, I hope you understood how to work with the SX attribute. By the way guys, if you want to style the typography component using a separate style sheet, then you can attach a class name here like this, which is also possible, okay? Let me remove this one. I don't need this. At the same time, do you see this SX? I don't need this one as well. So let me remove this one. And this was our example. I'm going to remove it from here. Let's save everything. If you want to format the document, then you can right click, format the document like this, okay? Save it. Let's look at the result. It will now look something like this, which is very big, right? Because of the variant. Let's make it to H6, okay? Save it. Let's look at the result. Now it will look something like this. Now guys, if we compare our navbar to the finalized project, look at this guys. What is missing? Do you see this huge gap? This thing is missing here. So how do we attach that gap here? Just like this one. And how to do this? There is a component in Material UI. It's called container. Okay, so we're going to write here container and then hit enter. It's going to open up a page. And what is this guys? How do we work with it? If I scroll down here, it gave us an example. Do you see this space here? Using the container, we can put space on both sides of our application like this. Okay, so how to use it? Look at this. If I click on the code, first of all, you import the container and then you attach a max width here. Let's try it out. So we're going to go back to our VS Code and we will import container. Okay, import contai, this one. Okay, So guys, you might get a little bit confused. You have a lot of options: container from React DOM, MUI material, MUI system. If you are confused, then do this. Go back to the documentation and see where they are taking this from. They are taking this one from MUI material. Okay, so we're gonna write here control space. We're gonna take it from MUI material like this. Okay, so how to use this? Do you see this toolbar, guys? Starting from here up to this toolbar, I'm gonna cut it. Okay, angle bracket container. Let's write the container here. Let's close the tags like this, and then let's paste everything here like this. Okay, so what did they use on the documentation? They are using max width to SM. We will not use SM, we will use XL. Let's come back here, and the attribute will be max width, this one, equal to double quote. Now look at this, guys. If you want to know more about what are the available options are, hit control space together. You see, you can get XS. It means extra small. SM means small. XL means extra large. MD means medium. LG means large. I will use XL. Save it. Let's look at the result. It will now look something like this. Do you see this gap here? We successfully implemented the gap here using the container component, and now this looks very similar to our finalized project. Look at this one, guys. Okay, but something is missing. You see, look at this. I'm comparing both of them. Do you see that the text is a little bit bigger compared to this one? Let's make it a little bit bigger. Okay, we'll go back to our VS Code and make it H5 like this. Save it. Let's see the result. There we go, guys. It's very similar now. Alright guys, so far so good. We're done building up our navbar. Next up, we're gonna build the slider components. And guys, do you remember what we named these components? We named this one tenure select, this portion. Okay, let me bring up the VS Code. It's here, tenure select. Okay, and what did we name this entire group of sliders? We named it slider select, which is here. Look at this one, slider select. Okay, and what did we name these individual pieces? We call this slider component, which belongs to this file under the common folder. And here we will build up our slider. Where will we get the slider from? We will get it from material UI. Okay, on the search bar we're gonna write slider like this, and it's gonna open up this page with a lot of slider options. But we want to keep our project as simple as possible, so we're gonna use the most basic one. We're gonna use this one. Okay, so we will click on this one, and what is it using? It's using a slider component coming from MUI material. So let's copy this line. Let's go back to our VS Code, and where will we paste it? We're gonna paste it here under the common folder. It's called slider component. Let's paste it here. Let's go back to our browser again. And now guys, look at this. You have two options, two sizes. So we're gonna select this one. How do we select that? Look at this, guys. There are two sliders present here. We need the second one. Let's copy this one, go back to our VS Code, and then we'll remove this one and paste it like this. After saving this, let's see the result on the browser, and you can see that we have nothing. Why is that? First of all, let me fetch the VS Code here. Okay, so where did we write the component? We made the component on the slider component, which is under the common folder. But where should the result be displayed? It should be displayed inside the slider select. So let's open up this one, and now you can see that we didn't import the slider component here. That's why we didn't see the result. Okay, it is written slider select, which we can see on the result. So what do? We remove this portion, and then we write here, what was it called? Slider component. Slider component. This one. Okay. If you don't see this option, then do this. You hit control space together, and then you can see that the slider component is coming from /common, this one. Okay. If we click on this one, it's gonna automatically import it for us. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna close the tags like this. After saving this, we can see the result immediately, guys. You can see that we have a very big slider, but this is not the thing that we want. We want the thing to look something like this. You see this one? At the same time, guys, do you see this huge gap here? But we don't have the same gap here. How can we implement the gap here? The same solution. Do you remember, guys, we used container here? The same container, we're gonna apply it here as well. So follow along with me, guys. We're gonna go back to our VS Code. This time we're gonna go to our app.js, which is here. This is the main parent component. Okay, Do you see these things? Slider select, tenure select, and result. I'm gonna cut this portion, okay, like this. And here I'm gonna write angle bracket container, which will come from my MUI material. Okay, I'm gonna select this one. I'm gonna close the container like this, and then whatever I have cut, I'm gonna paste it here like this. And in order to format the document, you're gonna right click, format document like this. And here on the container, what we're gonna write is max width, and do you remember the value that we previously used? We used XL for extra large. Save it. Let's see the result. There we go, guys. We got the huge gap here using the container component from Material UI. And guys, do you see this one here? The navbar and the slider component, there is very little gap in between. So how can we implement some gap in between them? Follow along with me, guys. We're going to go back to our VS Code, and then do you see this container? Here I'm going to use the SX property. Okay, do you remember the SX? It is for writing styles on your Material UI components like this. Look, SX equal to double curly brackets. Okay, so what do we need? We need margin top. So you can write MT like this. Do you see this one here? I wrote MT, or you can also write margin top like this. Okay, margin top. It will also work. Let me maximize this one. So you can write it like this. After writing margin top 4, let's save it and see the result. Look at this, guys. You have margin top of 4. But if you write MT, it will work. Look at this. MT colon 4. Okay, save it. Now look at the result. We got the exact same result. So what if I write here 8? If I save it, now look at this, guys. We got 8 here. So I'm gonna keep it to 4 like this. Okay. Now guys, if we compare our result with the original project, look at this one, guys. We have 2 sections on the original project. This is section number 1 and this is section number 2. This is for putting the pie chart and this one is for putting the slider components. But here, how can we implement the same system here? Like I want this entire section to be for the sliders and I want the second section to be for the pie chart. At the moment, we don't have any spacing for that. But how did I implement the same thing here? I used the grid component from Material UI. So let's come back here on the search. We're gonna write here grid like this. Okay, let's click on this one and we're gonna get this page. If I scroll down, guys, look at this. This is the way how you implement grid system on your project. Now guys, what is this 8 and 4 doing here? Let me explain. The moment when we use the grid system, our entire screen will be divided into 12 columns. How many columns? 12 columns except the spacing. Okay, we use the container spacing here. So leaving this, we're gonna divide this visible portion, I mean the working area, into 12 columns like this. Column number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up to 12. Okay, and wherever you assign 8, it's gonna mean that the component will occupy 8 columns at the same time. The same story goes for this one. Here it's written 4. It means that it's gonna occupy 4 columns at the same time. So how do we implement the grid system on our project? Look at this, guys. First of all, we import the grid. Okay, then we assign the parent, which will be the container. Let me do this in VS Code. Okay, so we're gonna maximize this one, and inside the container we're gonna make the grid. Okay, like this, angle bracket GRI. Look at this, guys. We got the auto suggestion grid coming from MUI material. We're gonna select this one and then make sure that it is imported here. Okay, we're gonna close the tags, we're gonna cut it, and after the result we're gonna put it like this. And in order to format the document, you right click, format document. Okay, so the first rule is you assign a parent. So in order to assign the parent, we write here grid container like this. There we go. Okay, so inside the grid, what we need 2 children. Why do we need 2 children? That's because, guys, how many sections can you see here? 2 sections. Section number 1, section number 2. That's why we need 2 children, or we can also call it item. Just like the documentation, guys. Do you see this one here? They are using grid item as children's. Grid item, grid item, grid item. Okay, we're gonna follow the same system as well. Angle bracket grid like this. Let's close the tags, and here we will write item. Okay, so let's copy this one, paste it again. So how many child do we have right now under this grid container? 2. Number 1 and number 2. So inside here, what I'm gonna do, first of all, let's plan, guys. Look at this one. So on the first section, we have the slider select, okay, and the tenure select. And on the other section, we have the pie chart. So just like that, if I come back here, guys, look at this. How many components can you see here? 3. Of which on the first section, we will have the slider select and the tenure select. So let's cut it and put it here, okay. And on the second section, we will only have the result component, which will carry our pie chart, okay. So let's go back to our app. Let's cut the result like this, put it here, and right click, format the document like this. There we go. Save it. Let's see the result. It will now look something like this. But guys, it is not finished yet. We need to now specify the amount of columns each section will occupy. Okay, what do I mean by this? Let me show you guys. So here we will write MD, oh sorry, my bad. We will write MD equal to curly bracket 6. It means that, so what do I mean by this, guys? Why did I write the MD? MD stands for medium screen. It means that on the medium screen, this grid will occupy 6 columns at the same time. Just like this one, you can specify the small screen size, extra small screen size, large, extra large, so on and so forth. Which means that, guys, you can make this component responsive to the mobile screen as well. Let me show you the sample. If I come back here, if I right click, go to inspect, look at this one, guys. This is responsive. Do you see this one? The moment I go below 1000 pixel, look at this one. You see? The pie chart goes to the bottom like this. So how did I do this? I did this using the same grid component. Okay. So look at this one, guys. Let me just copy this one and put it where? Here. So what does this mean? It means that this piece will occupy 6 columns and this piece will occupy 6 columns. So 6 plus 6, how much? It's gonna be 12 in total. Let's see our result after saving this. Look at this one, guys. We got it. But can you see that this one here? We don't have any gap in between. So if you want to specify some gap in between these two sections, what we can do, we can go back to our VS Code, and do you see this one? This is the main pattern. Here we're going to specify the spacing, okay? Spacing equal to curly bracket, we're going to write here 5. Save it. Let's see the result. There we go, guys. You can adjust the spacing here. It's totally up to you, but I'm going to keep here 5. Alright guys, next up, how do I make this responsive? At the moment, it is not responsive. Look at this, guys. If I go to the inspect and if I make it smaller like this, if I go below the 900 pixel, look at this one, guys. It's 842 pixels at the moment. So if I go above 900, it looks like this. If I go below 900, it's going to look something like this. What do I want? I want the sliders to expand 100%. But look at this, guys. It is not expanding 100%. That's because of the rules that we specified here. Do you see this one here? We only specified the rules for the medium screen size, not for the smaller screen sizes. So what do we have to do? We're going to write here extra small equal to curly bracket 12. So what do I mean by this? I mean by this, whenever the application goes below the medium screen size, it's going to occupy the entire screen width, which is basically all the 12 columns. So this component will occupy all the 12 columns altogether when it goes below the medium screen width. I'm going to copy the same rules and paste it on the other grid item, which basically contains my pie chart. Let's save this and see the result for ourselves. Look at this, guys. This is going to be our pie chart here. So if I make it above 900 pixels, look at this. It is now responsive. Okay. If I go below, now look at this, guys. This is responsive. So guys, I hope you understood how to work with the grid component and how to make your projects responsive using this one. Now guys, let's continue building up our slider select component. We already got this from Material UI. Let's inspect it, okay? Do you see the slider? If I put my mouse here, you can see that we can see a value, which is 50. If I refresh the page, the 50 still stays here. Why? That's because this is the default value. And where do I get the props? Look at this one, guys. If we come back to our slider component, look at this. We have a default value attribute with the value of 50. That's why the value slider is on the 50. But if I go back here and if I put here, let's say 20, if I save it, now if I refresh, the default value will be on the 20. And there are two more attributes. One is called the minimum, which is, look at this one, guys. The minimum here is 0 and the maximum is 100. So the two props are, look at this one. If I write here minimum equal to curly bracket, let's say the minimum will be 100, okay, and the maximum will be, let's say 300, okay. If I save this one and if I see the result, first of all let's refresh. Now look at this, guys, the minimum will be 100 and the maximum will be 300. Let's come back to the VS Code and adjust a little bit for the default value. So I'm going to put here let's say 150. So save this, come back here, refresh, and look at this one. We have the default value to be 150 now. The minimum will be 100 and the maximum will be 300. Just like this, we need 2 more sliders. How can we do that? Let's come back to our VS Code, guys, and this time we will go to our slider select, okay. So do you see this one here, guys? Slider component, we have it one time. That's why we can see it one time here. So if I copy this, if I put it for the second time, can you see that, guys? We have an error here. If I put my mouse here, guys, look at this. VS Code will explain the issue. It says JSX expressions must have one parent element. What does it mean by this? Let me explain, guys. If I go back to my app.js, look at here. Do you see this div, guys? Inside this div, we have all of our components and all of our contents. So we can safely say that this is the parent and these are the children's. But here, look at this one, guys. We don't have any parent. What are these two to each other? They are siblings to each other. So in this scenario, we need a parent. So if you want to write a parent, first of all, let's cut it, okay? If you want, you can use a div like this. If you don't want a div, what you can do, you can keep the tags blank like this. This is called a fake DOM. Or what you can do, you can use a React fragment. Look at this. React dot fragment. Look at this one, guys. You can also use this one. This is called the React fragment. For this to work, you must import React from React. Otherwise, it's not gonna work. Or what you can do, you can put a comma here, curly bracket. You can write fragment like this. If you do it like this, then you don't have to write React dot. Let's remove this dot from here as well. So what is this called again? It's called fake DOM. So inside this one, we're gonna paste all of our components. Now you see, we don't have any error. Why? That is because this is considered as a parent. Even though it's fake, it's a fake DOM, it will still work. Okay? For our project, we don't need the fragment. If you want, you can keep it there. Okay? But I don't want it. So I'm gonna put empty tags here and save the entire thing. Now let's see the result. It will now look something like this. There we go. Okay? Now I need another slider component. Okay? Now guys, why did I make 3 identical sliders at the same time? That's because I want to teach you something called props. And also I'm going to teach you how to work with it. First of all, let's see an example. If I go to this component, the slider component, what is my default value? The default value is 150. The minimum is 100 and the maximum is 300. Okay? So if I come to the result, look at this one, guys. The minimum is gonna be 100, maximum 300. Okay? The same values will be for all the components. Look at this one. It is the minimum is 100, maximum 300. Minimum 100, maximum 300. But what if I want to customize this? I want the last slider's minimum value to be 50 and the maximum will be 100. So at the moment it is how much? Minimum 100, the maximum is 300. So what do I want? I want the minimum to be 50, maximum to be 100. How can I achieve this? In order to achieve that, I have to go back to VS Code and look at this one. I have to write here 50. The maximum will be how much? The maximum will be 100. If I save it and look at this, guys, the default value, it's gonna be an issue. Let's make it 80. Okay, something like this. Save it. Let's see the result. Okay, I'm gonna refresh. Now look at this, guys. What is the minimum value of the last slider? It's 50. What is the maximum? It's 100. Not only that, guys, look at the first one's minimum value. It's 50 and the maximum is 100. Do you remember what was the previous values? The previous values were the minimum was 100, maximum was 300. But these new values got applied to all the sliders. I don't want the new values to be applied on all the sliders. Now this is a problem. How can we solve this? We can solve this by using something called props. So what is props and why do you use it? In order to customize your components according to your needs, we use the props. Let me give you an example. Okay, so here What can you see? What is changeable? What can you change? We can change the maximum value. We can change the minimum value. We can change the default values. Okay. So what do? We go back to our slider select. Okay. So what do you want the minimum value to be for the first one? So I'm going to write here minimum equal to curly bracket 0. I want the minimum value of the first slider to be 0 and the maximum will be 50. Okay. And the default will be let me write it down. Default value will be, let's say 20. Okay. Same thing I'm going to copy. Okay. After copying this, I'm going to put it here. So for the second one, I want the minimum value to be 100. Maximum will be 200 and the default will be, as an example, okay, 150. For the last one, the minimum will be 0 and the maximum will be 10. Okay. And let's copy the default value, put it here, equal to curly bracket. I'm going to put here as an example, let's say 3. Okay. Let's save everything and see the result. Okay. If we refresh the page, we can see nothing. Look at this one, guys. The minimum is still 50. The maximum is still 100. That's because, guys, we passed the props. Look at this one on the VS Code. We passed the props here, but we didn't receive them here. If you pass the props here, you must receive it here. Okay. How do you receive these values inside here? Let me teach you. So what most of the people do is that they use it like this. They are not wrong. This is doable. They pass a value here. It's called props like this. Or you can put whatever you wish. No problem. Okay. In order to keep it simple, let's write here props. Okay. Then what they do is, look at this. It's called default value, right? I'm going to remove the 80 from here. I'm going to write here props. Okay. The word that I passed here, I have to pass it here. And then in order to receive the default value, what do I have to do? I have to copy this one, come back here, and then I'm going to do here dot paste like this. It's like an object. Okay. What is it like? It's like an object. Props, then dot. Then which one do you want? You select from here. Okay. And then just like that, you're going to receive the value. The value, whatever you passed here. Okay. In the same way, what we're going to do, we're going to receive the minimum like this, props.min. Okay. Props.max. Okay. Let's save it and see the result for ourselves. Okay. I'm going to refresh and look at this, guys. It looks a bit different compared to the last one. Look at this. Now our default value is 3. The minimum is how much? 0. What is the maximum? Let's see, 10. It is exactly the way how we passed the props. Look at this, guys. On the slider select, the minimum is 0 for the last one. Maximum is 10 and the default is 3. What is for the first one? Minimum 0, maximum 50, default 20. Let's test it. Look at this. It's 20. The minimum is how much? 0. Maximum is how much? 50. Okay. So what is this, guys, and how did I do this? These are called props. Using props, you can customize your component according to your needs. Okay. Let's go back to here on the slider component. Now I'm going to teach you something called destructuring props. If you use this system, what happens is that if you need any value, every time you have to write props dot, which is a bit hassle. So how can we make our life more easier? We will implement a system called props destructuring. And in order to do that, what we do, we remove these props. We will write here curly bracket. It means props destructuring. Okay. And what do we destructure here? Look at this. Default value. I'm going to copy this, put it here, comma. Do you see the mean? I'm going to write here mean, comma. Do you see the max? I'm going to write here max. Okay. Now I don't need the props dot anymore. Look at this, guys. They are gone. Now it will still work and it's going to give us the exact same result. Look at this. I'm going to refresh here. We got the exact same result. Okay. So what is this called? This is called props destructuring. So guys, I hope you understood how to work with props, how to pass the props, how to receive them, and how to destructure them. Okay, our next plan is to perfect the design of one piece of our slider. Just like the one on the finalized project, just like this one. So why do we need to perfect one piece of our slider? That's because, guys, if you can perfect one piece, then you can copy paste several times and then change the props according to your needs. That's how we make reusable components. We perfect one piece of code and then we reuse it into multiple places by changing the props according to our needs. Okay, so we're gonna go back to our VS Code, back to our slider select, and we will remove these two from here. Okay, let's come back to our slider component, right click, format the document like this. Okay, save it, done. Alright guys, now we're gonna implement the mark system on our slider component. What do I mean by this? Look at this guys, on our result screen, if I move my slider like this, look, it is decreasing by one value. Can you see that? 17, 16, 15, 14. It is decreasing by 1 and it's increasing by 1. Look at this, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. It's decreasing and increasing by one value. But if I look at the finalized project, look at this. If I move it, look at this, 3000, right? I'm gonna move one slider up. Look, it's gonna increase by 100 and it's gonna decrease by 100 again. Okay, this is the purpose of putting marks on your slider. And if you put marks, then you can see a couple of dots here. You see, these dots are your marks. If you go to the official documentation and on the search bar, we're gonna search for slider. Okay, and then we're gonna scroll down, then we can see it's called discrete sliders. Here you can find the marks. How do you implement the marks? You use this attribute and this attribute. Let's implement the same thing on our project. Okay, we're gonna come back here. It's called marks, right? M-A-R-K-S. Make sure that you don't make any spelling mistakes, otherwise it's not gonna work. Okay, it's marks, and the other one is step. So let's copy this one so that we can avoid spelling mistakes, and open up VS Code and let's put it here. So if the step is 10, it means that the slider will increase and decrease by 10 points. Let me refresh this one and look at this guys, we already got 2 marks. Can you see this one here? So if I try to move it a little bit guys, look at this, we will go to the next slider. So we're jumping from 20 to 30, and if you go back, we're moving from 20 to 10. So our slider is moving by 10 points. That's the purpose of our marks. And now what did I teach you guys? We're gonna pass the props here. Okay, let's go back to our slider select, and here we're gonna select something called step. Okay, S-T-E-P equal to curly bracket, we're gonna put here 10. Okay, so guys, we're passing the props here. We need to receive it on our component. How do you receive it? We receive it here by destructuring our props. What was it called? Step. S-T-E-P. Okay, let's copy this one and put it here. Okay, let's save it and see if it works or not. I'm gonna refresh. Okay, now there we go, it's working. Okay, it's moving, increasing, decreasing by 10 points. Let's try putting 5. Okay, so I'm gonna remove the 10 and put here 5. Save the thing and let's see the result. Refresh. And now guys, look at this, we have 20. It's gonna move to 5, 25, 30, 25, 20, 15. So guys, it's working as expected. Next up guys, we want to implement a onChange handler so that every time we move the slider, I want to console log the value here. Okay, how can I do something like this? Look at this, I'm gonna come back to my VS Code and back to the slider component. Here I'm gonna pass 2 props. OnChange, something like this. Okay, equal to curly bracket. Let's copy the same thing, put it here, and let's destructure it here like this. Okay, and the other one will be called value, like this. Value equal to curly bracket, value. Let's copy this one and put it here as well, like this. There we go. Now guys, what do? In order to console log the value, every time we move the slider, we will use this onChange function. This is a function. Okay, let's copy this one. Let's come to our slider select, and here we'll paste the thing here. OnChange equal to curly bracket. Okay, and now we will pass a ES6 arrow function, something like this. Look, first of all, brackets, equal to sign, and then angle bracket like this. On the brackets, we're gonna pass a argument. You can write whatever you wish, no problem, but let's keep it simple. We're gonna write here E for event. Okay, and we're gonna write here console the log. We're gonna write here E. Let's save the thing and let's see the result. Okay, so the moment I move the slider, I can see something. You see, I can see a event listener here. You have a lot of event listeners, but we don't want all of them. We want only the target. Do you see the target? There is a target here which carries the value. You see, what is the value? It's 20. If I move it to, let's say, 5, and if I open it up here, look at this, The target is now value 5. I only want the value. How can I get that? Look at this one, guys. We're gonna write here e.target.value. Okay, so I'm gonna right click, format the document. Okay, save it. Let's see the result, and let's try to move it. Look at this, guys. We can only console log the value and not all of these events. We are only getting the value. There's another trick, guys. If we come back here to our VS Code, and after the E, if we put a comma and write value, then I don't need this e.target anymore. I can simply directly get the value. Let's try it out. I'm gonna refresh. If I move it like this, look at this, guys. We can get only the value by implementing this method here. Look at this one. Alright guys, so far so good. We have built our slider component, but it's not finished yet. If we compare this with our finalized project, guys, look at this one. Do you see the component? Around the component we have a couple of text which makes it more informative. So we need to add this to our project as well. Okay, so we're gonna go back to our VS Code, and specifically in which file are we gonna write them? We're gonna write them inside the slider component. And where will we write them? Guys, look at this one. Do you see? On the slider component, before and after, we have to write these informative texts. Okay, so let's come back to VS Code. We're gonna write them where? Before and after this component, which means I have to write it here and I have to write it here. Okay, so now I'm not gonna write it like this, guys. I'm gonna use which one? I'm gonna use a typography component to write down my text. So let me remove this one from there, and I'm gonna write here angle bracket typography. Okay, do you see this one? We got the option typography coming from where? MUI material. If you don't see the option, guys, hit Control space together, you will get to see the option. Okay, something like this. It's gonna automatically import it for you. If it doesn't import you automatically, just write it down manually. Okay, then we have to close the tags like this, and then we have to write whatever we wish. In the same way, we copy this one. Guys, don't worry about this error. I'm gonna explain and solve this error. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this typography component and I'm gonna put it here like this. So now let me explain, guys, what this error is. So if I put my mouse here, do you see this one? JSX expressions must have one parent element. What do you mean by this? Do you see how many elements do I have here, guys? Count with me. 1, 2, 3. I have 3 elements, and these 3 will be treated as siblings to each other. Siblings means brothers and sisters. They will be treated equal and siblings to one another. But the error that we can see here, it requires one parent element, which means that we must have one tag which should include all the other tags inside. Let me give you an example how to solve this. First of all, I'm gonna create a div. Okay, this is my div, so I'm gonna cut it like this. Okay, before cutting it, look at this one. Now, how many siblings do you have? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have how many siblings? You have now 4 siblings. But if I cut it like this, look at this, Control X, and I'm gonna wrap it around like this. I'm gonna right click, format the document. Okay, now look at this, guys, the error is gone. Now, how many siblings do you have? You have 3 siblings, and this will be your new parent. Why is this the parent? Because all the other elements are enclosed by this div tag. That's why these will be considered as child, and this one will be considered as a parent. And that's how you solve your problem. Which problem? That error problem which says JSX element must have one parent. Okay, you can solve it using a div tag. Guys, let me show you an alternative solution. If you don't want to use the div, what you can do, you can just keep it blank like this. Look at this. I'm going to remove the div from here and keep the tag blank. This is the opening tag. I kept it blank. And look at the closing tag. This is also blank. And look at this, guys. We don't have any issues, which means this solution works as well. But what is this called? This is called a fake DOM. Let me write it down for you as a comment. Okay, fake DOM. Something like this. Okay, now there's another alternative solution to this one, which is called React Fragment. You can also write here like this. Look, React.fragment. Okay, this one. This method of React Fragment will also work, provided, guys, you must import the React from React. If you don't import this one, look at this, it's not gonna work. Okay, you must import React from React. There's another alternative to this one. What you can do, look at this one. You can write a comma, curly bracket, fragment, okay? Something like this. And you can remove the React part from here, okay? Now look at this, guys. We don't have any issues except this one. Do you see this one? The closing tag, I must remove the dot from here like this. Now look at this, guys. There is no more issues with our code. After saving the code, guys, let's look at the result. It will now look something like this. We have some random text here and some random text here as well. But we want the thing to look something like this. First of all, we will have something called a label, okay, which says home value. Then the next thing is gonna say the amount of the property along with the unit symbol. So how can we achieve this? Follow along with me, guys. Let's come back to the VS Code, and this time instead of this one we're gonna write here home value, okay? We're gonna copy this, paste it again. This time we're gonna write here $3,000, $3,000, something like this, okay? After saving it, let's see the result. It will now look something like this. You see, we got it. Home value is here and $3,000 is here. But guys, let's compare this with our finalized project. Do you see this one here? It is a little bit bigger and bolder compared to our project. So how can we achieve this? Let me show you, guys. We're gonna come back here to our typography component of $3,000. Here we're gonna write variant, okay, which will be H5, and we will make this one a little bit smaller. By using the variant, let me write it down, 1 second. We will write here subtitle 2. If I hit Control space, look at this. We got the option of subtitle 2. I'm going to select this one. I'm going to save it. Now let's look at the result. It will now look something like this. You see, it's a match right now. Okay. But guys, we have a little bit of gap here. Okay. But we don't have that gap here. Let's add a little bit of gap here using the stack component. Okay. I'm going to teach you what is the stack component right now. First of all, let's look at the official documentation from Material UI. We're gonna go to the official website of Material UI, and on the search bar, we're gonna write here stack like this. I'm gonna select this one below the components like this, and it's gonna open up the documentation of the stack component. If you scroll down, guys, you're gonna get a lot of examples. Now, let me briefly tell you what the stack component does. Guys, are you familiar with Flexbox? If you want to implement Flexbox into your components, then you can definitely use the stack component given to you by Material UI. Now guys, look at this example given here. Do you see this one? They are stacking all the items together. Item 1, item 2, item 3. And they're specifying the spacing to be 2, which means that the gap between these items will be 2 units. And look at the direction, guys. The direction is given column. This is a column. But if you want to make it a row, look at this one, guys. Look at the next example. This is given as a row. And how did they do it? They wrote the attribute direction and the value is row. And that's how they are achieving this result here. If you want some dividers, look at this one, guys. They are divided. Then you can use this attribute, which is called the divider. If I keep scrolling down, guys, you're going to get this section which says interactive examples. Now, what is this, guys? And what are these values? Using these values, what you can do, you can change these items. As an example, do you see align items? This is currently on the center, which means look at this one. This is the y-axis, and this one is the x-axis. Let me repeat myself again. This is the y-axis from the top to the bottom, and the x-axis is from the left to the right, something like this. Now, on the align items, it is set to center, which means they are on the exact center on the y-axis. Now, if you want these items to be on the end, what you can do, you can just click on this one. Look at this. They're going to come to the end like this. If you want them to be on the start, just click on this one. It's going to go to the start. Similarly, look at this justify content. If you want them to be spaced apart from each other, you can use this one like this. Now, do you see this one? Using this component, you can check live how the stack component works. So guys, I hope you understood what is the stack component and how to work with it. Now we're gonna implement that into our project. Okay, let's come back to our VS Code. What we're gonna do, we're gonna maximize this, and do you see this typography? We're gonna cut them. Okay, we're gonna stack them inside a stack like this. Look at this angle bracket STAC. Do you see this one? We got the option stack from MUI material. If I click on this one, it's gonna import it here. Do you see this? Stack, import stack from MUI material. Now let's close this tag like this and let's paste whatever we cut. something like this. In order to format the document, right click, format the document like this. Now guys, what do we need? We need a little gap. We're gonna write here gap as an example, okay? As an example, I'm gonna write here 10, something like this, to see whether it works or not. I'm gonna save it. Let's see the result. It will now look something like this. You see the home value is here and my $3,000 is here, and between them we have a gap of how much? We have a gap of 10 units. Let's go back and make it just 1 unit, something like this. Okay, save it. There we go, done. Okay, now guys, look at this one. In which format is this in? It is in the column format. Okay, if you want to make it in the row format, what you can do, you can just write here direction, something like this, and you can write here row. Okay, after saving it, look at this one guys. Now it is in the format of a row. If you want it back to a column, what you can do, you can write here manually column, something like this. If I save it, it's back to a column, or if you don't include it, by default it's gonna be a column. There we go. And if you want to use other attributes like justify content, align items, so on and so forth, what you can do, you can go back to the documentation. On the interactive example, you just scroll down, you get all the attributes. Okay guys, let us come back to our project. Look at this, we got the home value and the amount of money. If we compare this with our finalized project, look at this one guys, it's a match. You see, it is a match. But look at below this slider component. Do you see $1,000 and we have $10,000? This is the minimum and this is the maximum. So how can we implement this guys? Same process. We come back to our VS Code. Where is it? Here. Inside the slider component, and below this slider, here. Okay, we're gonna remove this one and we're gonna write here as an example $1,000. Okay, I'm gonna copy paste the same thing and I'm gonna write here how much? $10,000, something like this. After saving the code guys, let's see the result. It will now look something like this. It is in which format guys? It is in the format of a column. We want the thing to look like this. You see, this is in the format of a row. At the same time guys, do you see the color? Compare this color with this color. This is white and this is a little bit gray color. So we need to implement the color here as well. So how can we do this? Let me show you. We're gonna go back to our VS Code, maximize this a little bit, 1 second. So in the typography, what we're gonna write is color. Okay, color we're gonna write here text dot secondary. Okay, secondary, something like this. If I save it, after saving the code guys, let's compare our result. Do you see this one here guys? The $1,000, this is a little bit gray colored compared to the second one. This is white color and this is gray color. Now guys, you might ask me a question like, okay Joy, where did you get this color and how do you know that the value will be this one? Very simple guys, the MUI documentation. Let's come to the docs, and now there's something called customization. I'm gonna click on this one, and then there's something called default. Where is it? Default theme viewer. We're gonna come here. And are we using dark mode? Yes, we are using dark mode. So I'm gonna enable this one. If you don't use dark mode, then disable this one. I'm gonna enable this one. Huh? Next up guys, we're gonna open up the palette because we are dealing with colors. So if I click on this one and if I scroll down guys, we have an option called text. If I click on this one, you have something called secondary. Do you see this color here? It is a little bit gray color, right? I am getting this color from here. Secondary, text dot secondary. Now guys, did you understand how I got the color? I got it from the MUI default theme. Now guys, let me show you how you can customize the color. First of all, let's see where the text is. This is inside the palette. Okay, so what we can do, we can go back to our VS Code, back to our theme.js. So the text was where? The text was inside the palette. So we have to write the text inside the palette here. Okay, something like this. Look, TE, I already got the option, you see, text like this, and now it should be in an object format. Why? Because it is written here that the text is an object. So now I'm going to maximize this, and here I'm going to write secondary, something like this, and here I'm going to assign the color as an example red. So if I save it, now if I look into my result, it will now look red. The secondary color is now red. Just like that guys, you can customize the colors according to your choice. So I'm not gonna apply red here, I'm just gonna remove this one. I like the default color, so I'm gonna save it. It's gonna come back to the default color of gray color. Okay, so guys, I hope you understood how we can use the material UI default colors and how we can also customize that according to our choices. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next one, which is, look at this one, typography $10,000. So what I can do, I can just copy the exact same thing and I'm gonna put it here like this, save it. Now look at this one, guys. The color of the $10,000 changed as well, from white to gray color. But guys, look at this one. This is in a column format. I want it to be in the format of a row. So how can we solve this one? Do you remember the stack component? I'm gonna be using a stack component. Okay, something like this. Look, angle bracket STACK. Okay, then we're gonna close the angle bracket like this. I'm gonna cut this portion, the ending tag, and I'm gonna put it after the typography. Right click to format the document. Where is my format? Here is it. Okay, now this time I'm gonna write here direction to be row. After saving the code, look at the result, guys. Do you see this one? Look at the format. This is now in the format of a row. If we compare this with our finalized project, look at this, guys. These two values are spaced apart from each other. So how can we achieve the same thing here? We will use something called justify content. Okay, follow along with me, guys. We're gonna write here the attribute justify. We got it already. You see, justify content, and here we're gonna write SP control space. You see, you can get to see the options. If you don't see the option, control space again. Even if you don't see the option, just write it manually. Okay, space between. Save it. Now let's look at the result. It will now look something like this. Okay, but guys, this is a little bit bigger compared to our finalized project. Do you see this one? Look how small they are compared to our project. So how can we make them smaller? We're gonna go back here and we're gonna use the variant attribute. Okay, variant, we're gonna make it caption, something like this. Cap control space, this is the caption. Okay, after writing this, save the code. Look at the result. It will now look smaller. Compare this one with this one. You see, so we're going to implement the same variant on the other one as well. Let's come back here, let's copy the variant and put it on the second one, something like this. Save it. Let's look at the result. There we go, guys. Complete. All right, guys, so far so good, but our component has a little bit of problem. Let me show you where the problem is. If I come back to my VS Code, guys, do you see this text? I hard-coded this one. Do you see this numeric value? I hard-coded this one. Okay, if I hard-code anything, so what will happen is that if I try to reuse this component, the hard-coded value will be everywhere. As an example, let me show you. I'm going to go back to my slider select. Okay, I'm going to copy this one and I'm going to put it like this again. Okay, two more times. Now I have 3 slider components. Now after saving the code, let's see the result. It will now look something like this. Now do you see this? Do you see this one here? Home value, home value, home value. 3000, 3000, 3000. Now let's look at the label of the second component, which is down payment, and this is written here home value. So if I try to change it to down payment, look at this one. I'm going to come back here where slider component. I'm going to change it here to which one? Down payment. If I save the code, now look at the result, guys. You see everywhere it's going to be written down payment, but I don't want it. I want to reuse my component. So guys, how can we solve this problem? Very simple, very easy. We're going to use the props. Do you see this one here? We're going to use the props to solve our issue. At the end, we're going to write a label. Okay, let's copy this one, and instead of the down payment, we're going to write here curly bracket, and then we're going to paste it here like this. Now, how do we pass the value into our label? We have to go to our slider select, and after the on change, or you can also write it here, I'm going to write a label like this, okay, equal to double quote or single quote. Now here I'm going to write home value, something like this. Now let me copy the exact same thing. I'm going to put it here, and this time I'm going to write here down payment, okay, down payment. And on the last one, I'm going to write here, I forgot, let me check real quickly. The last one will be loan amount. So let me just copy it from here. Come back to my VS Code, maximize this, and I'm going to put it here, save it. Now let's look at the result. It will now look something like this. You see, they are customized: home value, down payment, and the loan amount. Likewise, we're going to change the other values and make them as props. Let's go back to our VS Code, maximize this, and we have to go back to our slider component. Do you see this $sign? We're going to make it a unit, okay, something like this. So we have to destructure it here like this, unit. And this one will be amount. Let's write curly bracket amount, AMOUNT. Let's copy this and put it here as well. And now what I have to do, I have to go back to my slider select, and I have to pass two more things. One is called unit. Okay, this will be my unit is which one? I'm going to use a dollar symbol. If you have other currency symbols, then you can use them here according to your choice and wish. Next up, we're going to pass another prop which is called amount. Okay, amount equal to, I'm going to write here as an example $3,000. Okay, so I'm just going to copy the same thing, put it on the other ones like this. Okay, now let's save it. Now let's change the value a little bit. Okay, here I'm going to write 500 and this one will be, let's say, 700. Okay, after saving the code, let's look at the result. It will now look something like this. Do you see all of my values? These are now dynamic. You can change them according to your choice and needs. Finally, we're going to change the minimum and the maximum label. Guys, if I forgot to explain you what the minimum and the maximum label does, let me explain this to you right now. Guys, let's say you went to a bank for a loan. The bank has some minimum criteria and some maximum criteria. In our scenario, our minimum criteria is 1,000, maximum is 10,000, which means that you must take a loan of minimum $1,000 and maximum of $10,000. That's our limit, between $1,000 to $10,000. Okay guys, I hope you understood what this minimum and maximum label does. Okay, so now let's come back to our VS Code and change the minimum and the maximum labels. We're going to maximize this. We're going to go back to our slider component, and here we will remove this one. First of all, we need a unit. So we're going to write here curly bracket unit. Okay, and now do you see this one, guys? We already have a minimum and a maximum. Let's copy this one and put it here. Likewise, let's remove this unit curly bracket max. Okay, let's save it and let's look at the result. It will now look something like this. The minimum is 0 and the maximum is 50. 0, 50, 0, 50. So where are these values coming from? These values are coming from the slider select. You see this one? We already passed some values. As an example, let's say I want to customize this to 1250. I'm going to write here, where is the maximum? Here, 150. And I'm going to write here, let's say 250. Let's save it and look at the result. It will now look something like this. You see, we got 250, 150, 1250. So we can, which means that we can customize the component in any way we like. Now the last thing that is left is a little bit of gap. We need to put a little bit of gap between these sliders, just like this one. Look at this, guys. We have some gap here, some gap here as well. So we're going to come back to our VS Code, this time on the slider component. Do you see this fragment? I'm going to remove the fragment and use a stack component. It will work. If I save it, look at the result, guys. It still works. Okay. Let me maximize this one and I'm going to use MUI. MUI stands for margin top and bottom. Okay. Equal to curly bracket. And I'm going to use a value of 1.4. After saving the thing, let's look at the result. It will now look something like this. You can put here whatever value you like. As an example, if I put here 10, if I save it, look at this one, guys. We got margin top of 10 units, margin bottom 10 units. Similarly, this one and this one. Let's keep it simple, okay? 1.4, save it. Now look at the result. Perfect. Alright guys, so far so good. We have successfully built up our slider component. Now guys, do you see all of this numeric data? Do you see all of these numbers? We're gonna manage and maintain all of these numbers using the useState hook of React. But first, we need to learn and understand what is the useState hook and how to work with one. For that, let's go back to our VS Code and learn the useState hook of React. Okay, we're gonna go back to our app.js. We're gonna write our code here. Now, the very first thing that we have to do is import the useState hook from React. Something like this. Look, import useState. Okay, if I write it like this, look at this option. If you don't get it, then control space together. So the very first option says useState, which is coming from where? React. So if I click on this one, it is gonna import it for me automatically. If you don't get the option, please write it down manually. Alright guys, now we're gonna have a small recap of our JavaScript knowledge. I'm gonna write it down here. Guys, do you remember the way how we assigned variables in JavaScript? We did it using var let const. So let's write const as an example. So what will we name our constant? Let's call it x, and we're going to assign a value of 10 like this. So what did I write here? I assigned a value of 10 to the constant x. This is what? This is the assignment. I'm assigning a value. This is called assignment. So now how do I reassign the value? I want to reassign the value of x to 20. How do I do this? I do it like this. X is equal to 20. So what is this called? This is called reassignment. Okay, let me write down here. So this is the way how we did it in JavaScript. This is how we assign the value. This is the way how we reassign the value. But guys, in React, we don't do it like this. We use the useState hook from React to do our assignment, reassignment stuffs. Let me show you an example how you should write the useState hook. Okay, first of all, you assign var let const. You can use let, var, anything you like. So I'm going to use const for our example. Okay, then you write a square bracket like this. Okay, now here we write two things. So what are the two things that we write here? Let me write a comment here. The first thing is a name, the name for our constant, and the other one is a function. Okay, let me write it down here quickly. There we go. So these are the two things that we define inside the square bracket. So for the name, let's say the name of this constant will be, as an example, okay, a, small letter a, comma. Then we need to make a function. Okay, so let's name it set a, something like this. Okay, then we're gonna write equal to useState, and then lastly brackets. Using the JavaScript way, how did you declare an initial value? You did it like this, x is equal to 10, right? But in the useState way, you have to define an initial value here. Let's say the initial value will be, as an example, okay, 15, like this. So what is this 15 again? Do you see this a? This 15 is the initial value of a, which means that a is equal to 15. And if you want to reassign the value of a, you cannot do it like this. This is not permissible. What you have to do, you have to use this function to reassign the value of a. Let me show you an example. Okay, so here I'm going to write set a, and how much do you want to reassign the value of a? Let's say 30, like this. There we go. Now let me recap myself again. So this 15 will be the default, the initial value of our constant a. If you want to reassign the value of a, what you have to do, you have to use this function like this to reassign the value of a. Now the value of a will be 30. First of all, let me comment it out like this, okay, and let me console log it. Okay, console log a, something like this. Okay, now I'm going to save the thing. Let's save the code and see the result on the browser. Immediately you can see that we don't have anything to show on the browser. If you open up the console, you can see that assignment to constant variables, some error. Why is this error showing up? Because of this one. Look at this one. You see this one? I have to remove or comment out this one like this. Okay, so let me save it and look at the result. Now you see we got the result. And let me refresh, the error will go away. Now you see we have 15 here. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, there we go. We have 15. If I come back here and let's reassign the value. Okay, so how do I reassign the value of a? I have to use the set a to reassign the value of a. Okay, so I'm going to uncomment this, save it. Now let's look at the result. After saving the code, let's see the result on the browser, and immediately guys, you can see that we have an error on the console which says too many re-renders. React limits the number of renders to prevent an infinite loop. Do you know why we are getting this error? This error is actually coming from this function, the reassignment function. So if I comment it out like this, if I save it, now let's see the result, there is no more error. You see, the error is gone. If I refresh, there is no error on the console as well. So the main reason why we get the error from this is that if you don't have a purpose and if you just randomly use it, you will get an error. So in order to use this, you need a purpose. As an example, let's put a button here. The moment when we click on the button, we're gonna get 30, okay? Which means we have a purpose. The purpose is click on the button and then reassign the value. But in this case, we don't have a purpose. We are just putting it as it is. That's why we're getting the error, too many re-renders. So what we can do, we can put a button here like this, button, okay, tab. Now here, I'm gonna write onClick, okay? OnClick attribute. Here, I'm going to use a ES6 arrow function, okay? Something like this, look. And then, where's my set A? This is the one, okay? I'm going to cut it. I'm going to put it here, okay? And inside the button, let's write click me. Save it. Now, let's look at the result. There we go. Okay, we don't have any more issues. If I refresh the page, let's see. Okay, no more errors on the console. Now guys, if I click on the button, look at the console, we get 30. You see, we got 30. But you might have a question. Why are we seeing the 30 double? Why are we seeing the 15 double? The main reason why we are seeing double value on the console is because of the React strict mode. Let me show you. First of all, let me just refresh the page, okay? By default, you can see two values together, 15, 15. So if I go back to my VS Code, back to my index.js, you see we have something called a strict mode. Because of this strict mode, we can see the double value on the console. But if I remove it from here, something like this, and save it, let's look at the result. If I refresh now, you can see only one value here. So if I click on this one, you can see 30, one time only, not two times, okay? So let me go back here and bring back my React strict mode, okay? So guys, this is the way how you use a useState hook in React. In some places, you might have seen someone use the useState hook of React like this, React.useState hook, which is also correct. But in this scenario, if you don't import the React from React, it will not work. You see, I have an issue here. So how can you solve the issue? You can do it like this, React, comma, okay? And in this scenario, you don't need the useState hook separately. You can just directly do it like this, okay? But I prefer doing it like this. You import the useState and then you directly do it like this. But both of them are correct. Okay guys, now let's build a small counter app using the useState hook of React so that you can better understand how to use it practically. So for that, let's build another useState hook below. So we're gonna write const. You can use var let, no problem, okay? Square bracket. And we're gonna name our constant counter, okay? C-O-U-N-T-E-R, comma. So first of all, what did we do? We named our constant, okay? And the second task is, and the next thing we have to do is name our function. In this scenario, we're gonna name it set counter, okay? Look at the way how I'm writing it. You see, camel case, set counter, okay? Equal to useState, bracket. And here, what am I going to assign? I'm going to assign a default value. In this scenario, guys, you can use an empty string as a default value. You can use an object like this. You can use an array like this. You can also use an array of objects like this. The sky is the limit, okay? But let's keep it simple, okay? We're going to write here just a 0. So what is the initial value of my counter? It's 0. How do I reassign the value of counter? I have to use the set counter function, okay? So do you see all these comments? Let me just remove these things from here, okay? And I'm going to remove this one as well from here. Now there's an error. The error is here. You see button. This doesn't exist because I removed the code. In this scenario, do you see the click me? I'm going to remove this one and I'm going to write decrement. And instead of set A, let me copy this one, put it here, okay? Let's copy the button again, paste it. This one will be increment, okay? Increment. As an example, let's say I'm going to put here 4 and I'm going to put here, let's say 8. And in between the buttons, I'm going to have a p tag. Here, I'm going to print the value of the counter, okay? Let's copy this and put it here. After saving the code, guys, let's see the result on the browser. It looks something like this, you see? So let me just zoom in a little bit, okay? I'm so sorry for the design. But look at this, the moment I click on the increment, it's gonna be 8. You see the 8? Can you clearly see the 8? Look at this one. If I click on the decrement, it's gonna be 4 again. If I click on the decrement again, it doesn't work. Why? That's because the value is static. It's just a 4. Where is it? Just give me a second. Here is the 4. It's only a 4 and this is a 8. That's why you can't see 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay? So how can we fix this? Let's maximize this one. Do you see the counter? As an example, let's say the value of the counter is what? 0. I want to increment by 1. So how can I do this on the increment? Look at this one. I'm just going to copy this one and I'm going to put it here. By how much amount I want to increment? I want to increment by 1. So let's put here plus 1. Oh, sorry, plus 1. Save it. Now let's look at the result. If I come back here and if I refresh, if I click on the increment, it's going to increase by 1. You see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now if I click on the decrement, it doesn't work. It only jumps to the 4, but it doesn't go below the 4. So how can we solve this? Same solution. Just come here, copy the statement from here and put it here, something like this, and we're gonna write here minus. Let's save it and let's look at the result. If I click on the increment, it works. You see 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Click on this one, it works properly and perfectly. So guys, I hope you understood how to work with the useState hook of React. Now let's implement this hook into our project. But guys, first of all, let's make a plan. Let's go back to our finalized project and look at this. How many sliders do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 sliders. Now you might be wondering, since there are 4 sliders, it means that we need 4 useState hook. You are correct, but this design is actually flawed. Let me show you a practical example. Okay, we're going to go back to our VS Code, maximize this, and we're going to make 4 useState hook. So what should we name our first useState hook? Let's look at the project. This is home value, right? So let's write it like this. Const square bracket home value comma set home value equal to useState. As an example, let's say the value will be 3000 like this. Okay, just like this, we're gonna make 3 more hooks. Now guys, look at this. For 4 sliders, I made 4 useState hook. I named them home value, down payment, loan amount, loan term, according to the name of the sliders. Okay, now let me explain myself that why did I say this system is flawed, but I admit that it works. If you use it like this, it works, but it is flawed because it isn't practical in real life scenario. Now look at this guys. Do you see this const home value? How do you change this one? You change the value using this function. Okay, so for one constant you have one function. Look at the second one. For the down payment you have another function. For loan term you have another. So in total you have 4 constant, and to change these constants you need 4 different functions, and this function is only applicable for this value. This one is only applicable for this one. You cannot use the set home amount on the home value. This is only applicable for the loan amount, which is a very big hassle. At the same time, imagine you have hundreds of sliders. Then does it mean that you're gonna write 100 useState hooks? Absolutely not. So how does engineers solve this issue in real life scenario? We use an object to store our constants, something like this. Look, we're gonna write a curly bracket here. Okay, do you see this one here, home value? I'm gonna copy this one, put it here. So what's the value? The default value of the constant, it's 3000 colon 3000. Okay, next up we have down payment. I'm gonna copy this, put it here, colon, then how much is that one? 3000 again, comma, let's copy this one, put it here, colon 3000, comma. Finally we have the loan term. Let's copy this, put it here as 3000, something like this. Okay, I missed a 0, my bad. Okay, then what do? We make only one useState hook. Okay, like this. So const square bracket, let's name our const as data, comma, set data equal to useState bracket. And do you see this object? I'm going to cut this object. As I told you guys, do you remember, as a default value you can use a number, you can use a string, you can use an object, you can use a array, you can also use an array of objects. So in this scenario we have an object, so I'm going to cut it and I'm going to put it inside here. So this is the default value of my constant named data. So let me remove all of these things from here. I will also remove the counter example. And do you see this one here, these 3 lines? Let's remove them because we don't need them. Now right click, format the document. Where is it? There we go. Okay, now guys, I know you have a question. How can we access one property from the data? Very simple, very easy. Look at this, data dot. Okay, because why did I write a dot? Because this is an object and we're using the dot notation. Data dot, then what do you need? Let's say I want the loan amount, so I'm going to copy this, put it here like this. There we go. So now you might have another question like, okay, that's cool, but how do you change the value of one data, loan amount? Very simple, like this. You do it like this, set data, okay, bracket, curly bracket, and then here you write the object name. As an example, loan term. Okay, let's copy this, put it here, colon, then you write your new value here like this. Okay. Alright guys, to summarize, if you want to access any of these properties, we have to use data dot and then whatever property we need. That's the way how we access the data. If you want to change any of this data, what we have to do, you have to use this function, the set data function. Do you see the way how I am using it here? To change a property named loan term, in the same way, you can change any of the property values you like. Now it's time to use our concept into our project. We don't need this. Let's remove it. And guys, tell me, where are our sliders situated? Our sliders are situated inside this component named slider select. So what we have to do, we have to pass both of these into the slider select as props. Why is that? That's because guys, this data carries all of our properties. And this function is used to change any of these property values. That's why we need both of them. And how do we pass it here? We're going to pass them as props, something like this. Look, data equal to curly bracket data. Okay. Now the same thing for the set data. I can also copy this, put it here, equal to curly bracket paste. Done. So what are we doing here? We're passing the props. So if we pass the props, what we have to do, we have to receive the props inside the slider select, something like this. Look, I'm going to destructure my props first of all, like this. Destructuring done. And then what was it called? Data, set data, right? So I can just copy both of them like this, come back here, paste it, save, done. There we go. Now guys, to verify whether this actually works or not, what you can do, you can just write here a console log, okay? Console.log, you can write here data like this, save it. Let's go and look at the result. If we go to our console, look at this one guys. Okay, we have a couple of errors. If you refresh the page, you will get to see no errors. Do you see this object? Where is this coming from? You can clearly see the file name, which is sliderselect.js. This object is actually coming from slider select, which is this one where we wrote the console log. Okay, so we have confirmed that this actually works. Okay. Now guys, do you see our first slider, which is the home value? Look at the default value, it's 20. We don't want this 20 here. What we want, if we come back to our app.js, do you see this useState hook? Look at the home value. The default is 3000. I want to access this value inside the default value of my first slider, which is the home value. How can I do this guys? Do you see this data? Where is this coming from? It's coming from my app.js through this useState hook. From here, into the slider select as props. Okay, so how can I access the home value? Look at this guys. I'm just gonna copy this, come back to the slider select, and inside the default value I'm gonna remove the 20 from here. Then what do I have to do? I have to write a data dot, because the data is an object. Then we paste the home value like this. Okay, now there are a couple of more props that we have to pass, like the value. Okay, value equal to curly bracket. We have to copy the exact same amount, the exact same code, and paste it here like this. And this is the amount. It shouldn't be 3000. It should be data.home value like this. After saving the code, let's see the result on the browser. Guys, let me refresh real quick. And now look at this guys. The home value is set to how much? $3,000 here. But if I put my mouse here guys, look at this. You see it is 250. The default here is 250. So why is this happening? I have set this to $3,000. But it's showing me only 250. The main reason is that guys, we have a maximum limit here of 250 only, which means whatever value you pass after the 250 range, it's not gonna pick it up. So where is the issue? The issue is mainly here on the max. You see it's set to 250. We're gonna remove that and we're gonna set it to 10,000, because our bank, which is Bank of React, can provide a maximum of 10,000 loans per user. You can change it to your likings, but I'm gonna set the const to 10,000. Okay, let's write it like this: const bank underscore limit, okay, equal to, I'm gonna set it to 10,000 like this. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this and put it here, and the minimum will be 1,000. Okay, the minimum loan amount is 1,000 and the maximum is 10,000. Let's look at the result. It will now look something like this. If I refresh the page and look at this, we have 3,000 here as the default home value, minimum 1,000, maximum is 10,000. If I put my mouse here, look at this, it is 3,000, right? So now if I try to move this guys, look at this, it's not moving. You see, I'm trying my best to move this slider, but it's not working. Why is that? That's because if you come back here, if I maximize this, look at this one, guys. Do you see the onChange handler? The onChange handler, we are just console logging it. There is no actual function here. So guys, what we have to do you see this set data function? We have to implement this inside the onChange handler. So how can we do this? We have to remove this one from here. Set data, data bracket, curly bracket. So why did I add a curly bracket here, guys? That's because look at the original useState hook. It is in the format of an object. That's why we must write it in the format of an object. Otherwise, it's gonna be error. Okay. Now guys, which property value do we want to change right now? We want to change the value of the property named home value. So we're gonna copy this, put it here, colon, and then do you see this value? I'm just gonna copy the value and put it here. So after saving everything, let's see the result on the browser now. Let's refresh, and now look at this. If I try to move this, do you see it is now moving up and down? But it's gonna move up and down by 5 points. Why 5 points? That's because if I come back here on the step, we wrote 5, so it's gonna move up and down by 5 points. So I'm gonna set it to 100 like this. Save it, and now we have clear distinct marks here, which indicates each point is 100 steps like this. Look, okay, it's moving by 100 points, decreasing by 100 points as well. Just like the home value, we're gonna change the other sliders. But guys, we have to add one more slider here. That is because on the finalized project, look at this, we have 4 sliders in total. And on our project, we're missing one more slider, which is for the interest rate. Okay, so let's go back to our VS Code, maximize this. On the slider select file, just scroll down. Do you see this slider component? Just copy it like this. Okay, and put it here, and it's gonna be our interest rate. Interest rate. There we go, done. Okay, so now look at this one, guys. Look at the first slider, the way how we change the values. In the same way, we're gonna change the values for the down payment and the other sliders. So follow along, guys. Do you see this one? It's written down payment, and the default is 20. So what we have to do, we have to go back to our app.js. Where's the down payment? Here is it. We just copy this so that we don't make any spelling mistakes while writing the down payment spelling. Come back here, instead of the default value, we're gonna write data dot down payment. Okay, in the same way, we will trigger, we're gonna target the prop named value equal to curly bracket, paste, oh my bad, data dot down payment, copy this, and instead of the amount 500, we're gonna put it here, data dot down payment, and instead of the step, we're gonna write here 100. Next up, guys, do you see the onChange handler? We don't need the console log. We're gonna remove this, set data bracket curly bracket. Why did I add a curly bracket? Because the useState hook is an object. Okay, I'm gonna hit enter, and which property do we want to change? We want to change the down payment. Copy this, put it here, colon value. Okay, save it. Now let's look at the result. It will now I have to refresh the page. Now guys, look at our down payment slider. The value is 3000, minimum is 0, and the maximum is stuck on the 150 mark. Okay, so how can we solve this? We can solve this by changing the value on the max prop here. But guys, before changing the value of the max, I have to explain you something real quick. Let's go back to the original project. Let's refresh this one. And guys, look at this. You see the default is set to 3000. What does it mean? It means that I'm trying to purchase a property whose value is $3,000. I can change it to, let's say, as an example, okay, $4,000. So I'm trying to purchase a house worth $4,000. So the maximum range on the down payment would be $4,000. It's not gonna be more than $4,000. If it's more than $4,000, it means that you're gonna overpay the seller of the house, which doesn't make any sense. So whatever would be the value of the home, the exact amount would be shown here as the max for the down payment. So if I try to purchase a house which is worth 5,000 as an example, look at this one. You see, it is 5,000. The maximum range on the down payment would be 5,000. If I change it like this, look, I'm changing the slider. At the same time, this value also moves. Can you see this one? Look at this. So we have to adjust our project just like this concept. Okay. So let's come back to our project, open up VS Code, and this is the max. What will I add here? Data dot home value. So I'm just gonna copy it from here like this, copy, put it here like this, and the minimum is perfect. Okay, after saving everything, guys, let's see the result on the browser. I'm gonna refresh the page, and now look at this. The minimum is 0, maximum is 3000. The value is 3000 as well for the down payment. So this 3000 is adjusted according to the value of our home. If I try to change the home value, and now look at this one, guys, you see it is $3,700. $3,700 is here as well, so it's updating live. If I decrease the value, it's gonna show up here as well. But guys, what happened to this down payment value? You see this one, it's gone. There is a big issue on our code. So the main issue with our code is this one, you see. So the way how we wrote it, set data, which is changing the home value, right? The previous data, the old data is actually getting deleted. That's why we can't see the down payment. So how is the old data getting deleted? Let me show you the proof. I'm gonna refresh the page, open up my console, and you can see I have an object which is coming from where? Slider select.js. If you don't see this, then do this. Come back here on your slider select.js file and just write a console log data. Then you're gonna see this object on the console. Okay. So how many properties are here? Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 properties, right? So the moment I just move the home value a little bit, you see, how many property do you have on this object? This object is coming from where? Slider select.js. There is only 1 property. So initially we had 4 properties, and the moment we shifted the slider, we only have 1 property. How is this happening? It's happening because of the way we wrote our set data function. And how do we solve this problem in a way that the old data doesn't get deleted? Do you see this data here? I'm just gonna copy the data. This carries all the old data, okay? And then we're gonna use something called a spread operator like this. Look, data, comma, done, complete. After saving everything, let's see the result now. I'm going to come back to the browser, refresh the code, and now how many property do we have here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 property. Now look at the down payment. It's set to 3000, right? This is also 3000. I'm going to move it to, let's say, 3300. And now if I open up the object, look at this. How many property do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 properties. Originally we had 4 properties, and on the new one we have 4 property as well. So the old data didn't get deleted. Look at the proof. Do you see the home value? It is set to $3,300, and everything else is $3,000. If I go up, you see this one, on the old value, the home value was $3,000. From here, it moved to $3,300. So guys, how is this spread operator actually working? Let me give you some examples. So the way how we wrote the spread operator, what this will do is that it's gonna take a copy of the object from the useState hook, something like this. I'm gonna come back here, copy the entire thing, and what this will do is gonna paste the entire object like this. Let me format the code a little bit. Where's my format? There is it, format document. Okay. After this step of copy pasting, guys, do you see that we have 2 home value, home value, home value, right? So what's going to happen is that the old data, this one will be removed like this. And now guys, can you figure out this one? Look at this. These are the old data of the other properties except the home value. And this is the new value for the home value property. So this is the way how the spread operator works. Let me remove these things, and I'm going to write here data. By using the spread operator, what you can do, you can keep the old data intact. At the same time, you can enter new data for your specific properties. After saving the code, let's see the result on the browser. I'm going to refresh, and now do you see this one? It is set to $3,000. I'm going to move the slider like this. Look, it is how much? $5,800. Look at this on the slider. This is $5,800 as well. But look at the slider for the down payment. It isn't getting removed. It's still there to 3000. Do you see this one here? Back to the useState hook. Look at this one. You see the down payment is set to 3000. It is still here, exact. It's not getting deleted or removed. So guys, I hope you understood how to work with the spread operator. Let's come back to our slider select. Let's maximize this and look at this one. Look at this portion, guys. On the second slider, which is named down payment, look at this onChange handler, guys. Do you see this one? Set data. We are not using any spread operator, which means that this code will delete the old data, which will break our code. Let me show you a sample, okay? I'm going to refresh the page, and if I try to move the down payment, look at this one. You see, the home value is gone. So in order to fix this one, what we have to use? The spread operator. I'm just going to copy this and put it into this place like this. Save it. Let's see the result now. I'm going to refresh the page, and now previously this was getting deleted, right? If I move this one, that will not get deleted right now. Okay, there we go, done. In the same way, we're going to update the loan amount and the interest rate. Let's go back to our VS Code, and now do you see this slider? This is for the loan amount. Do you see the default value? We're going to remove this one and write data dot. Let's go back to the useState hook, which is situated on the app.js. Loan amount. I'm going to copy this, come back here, put it here. Okay, copy this, go to the next line, write value equal to curly bracket, paste, remove the amount, paste it here as well. And now on the steps is going to be 100, and on the max we're going to write data.homeValue. Okay, something like this. I'm just going to copy this one, come back here, paste it. Okay, save it. Let's look at the result. So guys, why did I set the home value as the maximum on the loan amount? That's because you can't take a loan bigger than the home value. That's why this will be the maximum amount that you can take the loan. If the value of your home is $5,000, then you can't take a loan more than $5,000. It's gonna be set to the max, $5,000. After saving everything, let's see the result on the browser. I'm gonna refresh the code. If I try to move this, guys, it's not gonna move. Why? That's because we forgot one more thing. On the onChange handler, we have to remove the console log, set data, bracket, curly bracket, which property do we want to change? The loan amount. Copy this, put it here, colon value. And what are we missing? We are missing the spread operator. Let's write it like this, save it, done. Let's come back here. Let's try to move this. Look at this. It's working beautifully. Okay. Let's change the interest rate. We go back to our VS Code, maximize this, scroll down. Here on the minimum and the maximum, we're going to set the minimum interest rate to be 2%. Okay. And the maximum will be 18%. And the default will be data dot. Now back to the app.js. On the useState hook, do you see that we don't have any property for the interest rate? We will enter a new property for the interest rate. We're gonna write interest, okay, rate colon, we're gonna by default set it to 5. Let's copy this property, come back to the slider, select data dot interest rate. Let's copy this, go to the next line, value equal to curly bracket, paste, and on the amount it's gonna be this. And on the onChange handler, instead of the console log, we're gonna write here set data bracket curly bracket, which property are we changing? Interest rate. Copy this, put it here, colon value, and we need to use the spread operator so that the old data doesn't get deleted. Okay, after saving the code, let's see the result on the browser. Let's refresh and look at this, guys. We got the interest rate as well. But if I try to move it, you see it's gonna move like this: 2, 7, 12, 17. It's moving by 5 points. We don't want that. So what I can do, I can just set on the step to be 1. If I save it, it's gonna move by 1 point. You see, it's moving by 1 point. If you want, you can also use 0.5 on the steps like this, 0.5. Save it. Let's see the result. You can see it's 9, right? It's gonna go to 9.5. If you move it down, it's gonna go 8.5. Okay, it's moving by 0.5. Guys, do you see this problem on the interest rate? So what is the unit of the interest rate? It's percentage, but it's given here as $sign. Same thing here and here as well. So how can we solve this? Let's go back to our VS Code. Let's scroll down to the very bottom on our slider select file. And do you see this one? Label interest rate. We want to select this one. Do you see this one here? Unit is $sign. We're going to remove the $sign and write, save the code. Let's see the result. Let's refresh and you can see that it is now percentage symbol. Alright guys, so far so good. Now we're going to set some rules for our bank. In order to explain the rules, we have to go back to our original project. Let's refresh the page, and do you see the slider for the home value? It's $3,000. Let's slide it down to $1,000 like this. Okay. So when the home value is $1,000, Do you see the down payment and the loan amount? It is 200 and 800. If we add both of them, it's gonna equal to $1,000. For those who don't know what the down payment is, the down payment is the minimum amount of money you're gonna pay while purchasing a house, and the rest of the money will come from the bank. So in our case, by default, it is actually optional. By default, we're gonna set the down payment to 20% and the loan amount will be 80%. Okay, and now look at this, guys. If I move the slider up to, let's say, $5,000, something like this, and what is the 20% of $5,000? It is $1,000. This is here, and the rest of the money, which is 80%, is here. So if you want, let me do a calculation for you. I'm gonna bring my calculator here, and 5,000, something like this, 5,000 multiplied by 0.2. Why 0.2? 0.2 equates to 20%. If I click on the equal to sign, you see down payment is gonna be $1,000. Now let's close this calculator. Now guys, let's assume that you don't have any money to pay as down payment. No worries guys, you can just keep the slider to 0 and you can see that automatically the loan amount will update itself to the full amount of the house. The house is $5,000, the loan amount will be $5,000. And now let's say that you don't want to take this big loan. So what you can do, you can just slide the loan amount slider and adjust the value according to your wish. Okay, something like this. And when you adjust the loan amount, automatically the down payment slider will also adjust. If you add both of them, the total will be equal to the home value. Okay, do you see this one? They are updating itself automatically when you move the sliders, both the loan amount and the down payment. Okay, so these are the very simple rules for our app. Let's implement them into our project. For that, we're gonna first of all go back to our VS Code. Okay guys, do you see this one here? 3,000, 3,000, 3,000. Where are these values coming from? These values are coming from our useState hook. Do you see the app.js? We're gonna come here. Do you see down payment, loan amount, and the home value? They are set to $3,000 each. Okay, so what did I tell you? The down payment will be optionally 20%. So what I can do, I can just write here star for multiplication. Okay, 0.2. Let's save the thing, come back here and refresh, and you see that the down payment is adjusted to 20% of the total home value by default. Let's go back to our VS Code, and now do you see the loan amount? We're gonna put here star for multiplication 0.8. It means 80%. Save the thing, come back here, refresh, and look at this. This is gonna be 80% of the home value. This is 20%. If we add both of them, it's gonna be $3,000, which equates to the home value. Now guys, if I increment or decrement the home value, something like this, look, if I do it like this, then can you see this 600 and 2400? They are not adjusting themselves. If I put it to, let's say, $1,000. Now, if you calculate these two values, 2400 and 600, they will equal to $3,000, which doesn't equate to the home value of $1,000. So how can we adjust this? In order to adjust this, we have to find where the problem is. So guys, tell me, whenever I move this, what is getting changed? Where does the value gets updated? It gets updated in the file name slider select here. Let's maximize this to the first slider, which is for the home value. Do you see this one on change handler? Inside here, we are changing the value of the property named home value. Okay, here we're gonna adjust the values of the other properties. So what did I tell you? The down payment will be 20%, the loan amount will be 80%. So what I have to do, look at this guys, I'm gonna just target them here. What is it called? Down payment, right? Let's go back to our app.js, down payment. I'm gonna copy this one, come back here, put it here, colon, okay? And then we're gonna write here value star 0.2, okay? So this will equate to 20% of the value. So what is this value? This value is actually the home value, okay? Then we're gonna go back there, copy the loan amount, come back, paste, colon, value star 0.8, comma. Save the thing. Let's go and look at the result. Okay, I'm gonna refresh the page. Now by default it's $3,000. 600 plus 2400 equates to $3,000. I'm gonna slide it to $1,000. The moment I slide down, do you see this thing guys? it is adjusting itself automatically. Look at this. You see the values are adjusting. If I go back to 1000, and if you calculate both of them, 200 and 800, both of them will equate to $1,000. Likely if I go up something like, as an example, $6,000, okay, 20% of $6,000 is 1200, and the remaining 80% will be 4800. Add both of them, it's gonna equate to the home value. So guys, our calculation is correct, but let's move back to $1,000. Okay, so it is $200, 20%. Let's move it up something like this, 700. Okay, so what is the total of 700 and 800? It's gonna equate to $1,500, which doesn't equate to this. So how can we adjust this? In order to adjust this specifically, we have to go back to the slider select component and now scroll down to the second slider, which is named down payment. Okay, so what is the calculation? Let's do our calculation. So when the down payment is set to $700 out of the total home value, so if you do a subtraction, 1000 minus 700, how much is it? It is gonna be $300. So we're gonna set the $300 here. Okay, so let's do the calculation. Where? Inside the second slider component, this one, which has the label named down payment. Okay, so do you see this on change handler? Here we're gonna target the loan amount. Okay, loan amount colon, and then we're gonna do a subtraction. Okay, so just write brackets data dot home value, okay, minus the value. Okay, and don't forget to add a comma, otherwise there will be error. So comma here, save it. Now let's look at the result. I'm gonna refresh the page and I'm gonna set it to $1,000 for the home value. Do you see this one? It is 200, 800 equates to 1000. If I move it up, look at this. 300 is here. The remaining amount is 700. It's gonna be here. If I move it up, something like this, $900, you add both of them, it's gonna equate to $1,000. So the calculation is correct, but let's keep it to $500. Now look at the loan amount. If I increment this, something like this, you see the calculation will not match to the home value. Now that's problematic. How can we solve this? Exact same solution. Okay, come back to your VS Code. This time you're gonna go to the slider component with the label named loan amount. Okay, this time we're gonna target the down payment. Okay, down payment colon bracket. Okay, data dot home value minus the value. Okay? And don't forget to add the comma, otherwise it's not gonna work. Okay, save the thing. Let's look at the result. I'm gonna refresh the code, I'm gonna refresh the page, and I'm gonna set this to $1,000. Okay, now look at this, loan amount is 800, right? If I move it down, do you see that this value also adjusts itself automatically? 300, 700, how much? 1000. If I move it down, 100, 900, how much? 1000. If I move this one down, 800, 200, how much? 1000. So our calculation is working perfectly fine. Alright guys, so far so good. Our slider select components are complete. Now if we compare this with the finalized project, guys, look at this. Do you see what is missing? The pie chart is missing. At the same time, the tenure select component is missing. We're gonna build the tenure select component. But what is this, guys? So this is actually used to determine for how many years you want to take the loan. As an example, I want to take the loan for 20 years. You can select the 20 years from the drop down list like this. Okay, and where did I get this component from? I got it from Material UI. We're gonna go to the website MUI.com. On the search, we're gonna write here select like this. Okay, do you see this one? Components. Below the components we have something called select. We're gonna select this one, and then you have your select component. You can have a lot of options if you scroll down, but we don't want to look into those things. If you are interested, then sure, you can go and discover your options, but I'm gonna stick with the basic one, the first one. We're gonna select this code, and then we're gonna get the entire code base. Guys, look here, you have two buttons, JS and TS. These are the two different versions for our component. One is written in TypeScript and the other one is written in JavaScript. Since we are writing in the JavaScript version, we're gonna select on this one and we're gonna use this component. So follow along with me, guys. First of all, we're gonna copy all the import statements. Let's go back to our VS Code, and this time we have to go to our tenure select component, this one. Okay, then we remove this import statement from React paste all the code that we copied from the website. Let's go back here again. This time we need this code. Let's copy this, come back to our VS Code and paste them here before the return statement like this. Okay, let's go back to the website, and this time I need everything whatever is inside the box. I don't need the box, I need everything whatever is inside the box. Okay, so I'm just gonna select all the things inside the box, copy this, come back to our VS Code, and do you see this div? I don't need the div. I'm just gonna remove this one, paste everything. Okay, now I'm gonna select everything, right click, format the document. Where is my formatter? It's here. Okay, format document, save the code. Let's see the result on the browser. It will now I have to refresh. It will now look something like this. It's written age, and if I select on this one, you see you have 3 options: 10, 20, 30. Let's customize this, guys. I don't need the age, I will write their tenure. So where will I write the tenure? I'm gonna write it here. Okay, tenure. Guys, copy this one and put it here. Do you see this one here? The label, it says age. I'm gonna remove the age, paste it here, save the thing. Let's look at the result. It will now look something like this. I have the tenure here. If I click on this one, I have 3 options: 10, 20, 30. I'm gonna remove that. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna maximize the VS Code. Do you see this one here? 10. I'm gonna write here 5 years. Okay, 5 years. Let's copy this, and on the value I'm gonna set here 5. It's gonna be my 10 years. Put it here, and just like this I'm gonna have in total 5 options for 5, 10, 15, 20 and 25 years. After saving everything, let's see the result on the browser, and I'm gonna refresh the page, and if I click on this one, you can see we have 5 options: 5, 10, 15, 20 and 25 years. So if I select any one of them like this, it's gonna say 15 years. But I don't want it like this. Every time I select something, I want to update the state. How can I update the state? In order to update the state, guys, let's go back to our VS Code, and now do you see this one? So every time, whenever we select any one of them, the thing that gets updated is your age useState hook. This one gets updated every time you select any one of the options. But I don't want to update this one. I want to update the useState hook that is inside my app.js. How can I update this one? In order to do something like that, guys, do you see data, set data? I'm gonna pass both of them as props inside my tenure select. Something like this. You see, it's already written here for us. Let's just copy this one and put it here like this. Okay, now what do? We go back to our tenure select, and we have to destructure the code here. Okay, so let's go back here again, and we just copy paste from here. We're gonna come back to our tenure select, we're gonna paste the code, save it, done, complete. So what did we do, guys? We just passed the props and destructured the props here. Now it's time for action. Do you see the value, guys? It is currently set to age. I don't want this. I want the default value to be data.loan-term. At the moment it's set to 3000. I don't want that. Default value will be 5 for 5 years. Okay, let's go back to our tenure select. Let's copy the data, remove the age, data dot, let's come back here, copy this and put it like this. Okay, there we go, done. Let's scroll up, guys. Do you see this useState hook? I don't need this one. I'm gonna remove it from here. Okay, and you see there is an error here. I have to remove this one as well, and instead of that I have to use this one, set data, like the set data bracket curly bracket. So now I want to preserve the old data. How can I preserve the old data? I have to use something called spread operator. Do you remember how I used it? Dot data. Okay, comma. Now which specific property I want to change? I want to change the loan term. Let's copy this one, come back here, paste it, colon. Now do you see this one here? Event is gonna be event dot target dot target. Where is my target? There is it, target dot value. Okay, if you want, you can also format the code like this. Right click, format document. After saving the code, guys, let's see the result on the browser. I'm going to refresh the page, and if I click on this one, let's select any one of them. Okay, before selecting something, let's do one thing. Let's open up our console. Okay, and if I open up this object, do you see this one? Loan term is set to 5 years by default. I'm going to select, let's say 20 years. If I select 20 years, it's going to give us another object. This is the updated object. So if I open up this one, do you see this one here? The loan term is now set to 20 years, which means that, guys, this component is working perfectly fine and it is also complete. Alright guys, so far so good. The last thing that is left is the monthly payment indicator and the pie chart. So let's build them up. So we're gonna go back to our VS Code. This time we have to go to our result.js, because in this file we're gonna display both the pie chart and the monthly installment indicator. But for that, guys, we need to access the data from our app.js. How can we do this? Do you see this one? We need this data inside the result.js. So we copy this one, scroll down to our result component. Here we're gonna pass it as a prop. Okay, data equal to curly bracket data. Okay, there we go. Save it, save the code, and let's go back to our result.js. So since we passed the props here, we have to receive it inside the result.js component. So we're gonna destructure the props and we're gonna write here data. Okay, there we go, done. And guys, we can also destructure the data. What do I mean by this? Let me give you an example. Okay, so I'm gonna write here console.log. Oh, my bad, console log. And now let's say, guys, I want to access down payment. I want to access this one. So how can I access that here? I have to write it like this: data dot down payment. Okay, likewise, if I want to access loan amount, what do I have to do? I have to come back here, data dot loan amount. So whatever property you want to access, you always have to write data dot, data dot, data dot. That is a hassle, right? So what you can do, you can also destructure the data. So guys, how do we destructure the data? We do it like this: const curly bracket equal to data. Okay, now what do we want to destructure? All the properties that is listed inside this useState hook. As an example, home value. Let's copy this one, come back here, put it like this. Okay, comma, do you see the down payment? We can also get this one, copy, paste. And now guys, since we destructured them, I don't have to write data dot anymore. I can remove the data and directly access the value of the down payment. Similarly, I can just copy the loan amount, comma, paste. Let's go back there. What is missing? Loan term and the interest rate. Copy this, come back here, comma, paste, come back here, interest rate, copy, comma, paste. Okay, then we select everything, right click, format the document. Okay, there we go. So this is the way how you destructure your data. Okay, I'm gonna remove the console logs from here and we have to do a couple of calculations. Alright guys, the very first calculation that we have to do is we have to calculate all the total months of our loan term. So what do I mean by this? By this I mean that, let's say we are taking a loan for 5 years. Okay, so how many months are there in 1 year? 12 months. And in 5 years there's gonna be 5 times 12 equal to 60 months. Okay, let me write down the result here as well. 60 months. Okay, something like this, equal to 5 years. Now the second calculation that we have to do, we have to calculate the interest per month. What do I mean by this? By this I mean that how much interest will the bank charge you per month. Let me give you an example. Okay, so let's say you are taking a loan of $100, okay, at 12% interest. For how many years? For 1 year. So in 1 year, how many months are there? 12 months. And what is the interest rate? It's 12%. If you divide 12 by 12 months, it's gonna be 1% per month. So on $100, you are getting charged $1 as interest. This is the way how this calculation will work. Okay, next up guys, in order to calculate the monthly installment of our loan, we're gonna use this formula. By the way guys, this is not my formula. I took it from ChatGPT. How can you use ChatGPT to generate your formula, mathematical formulas like this? Let me show you. We're gonna go to the website of ChatGPT and then we're gonna write the prompt like this. Let's say my loan amount is $3,000 at interest rate 12% for 5 years. Generate a JavaScript function to calculate my monthly payment. You can customize this prompt according to your choice, but I'm gonna leave it up to you so that you can play around with it. But basically I took this formula from ChatGPT. Next up guys, we're gonna use this formula to calculate all the amount of money you pay to the bank as interest. So what do I mean by this? Let me show you. Okay, we're gonna go back to the original project And look at this, guys, you're taking $2,400 from the bank as loan at interest rate 5% for 20 years. How much amount of money are you paying to the bank as interest? If you put your mouse here, you can see that it's $1,400, $1,401. You're paying this much amount to the bank as interest for 20 years tenure. If I change the tenure to 5 years, then you can see that if I put my mouse here, so in 5 years for the loan amount $2,400 at 5% interest, you're paying almost $318 as interest. That's the calculation that you can do using this formula right here. Alright guys, next up we're gonna display this monthly payment inside our HTML. How can we do this? Let's remove this one, and instead of a div we're gonna use a stack like this. Okay, and make sure to import the stack from MUI material, otherwise it's not gonna work. So if I click on this one, it's gonna import it for me automatically. Okay, let's close the tag. Inside here we're gonna use a typography component. Okay, typo. Look at this, we got it, the option. If I click on this one, it's gonna automatically import it for me. So let's close the tags like this, and inside here we're gonna write monthly payment. Okay, monthly payment $, colon, $, and here we're gonna write curly bracket. Where's the monthly payment? Here is it. Let's copy this one and put it here. Save the thing. If you want to format, then you can right click, format document, save the thing, and let's see the result on the browser. If you come back here, refresh, you see we got 45 point, a huge decimal number. You see we got a lot of decimal numbers, but I don't want this huge decimal number. If I come back to my original project, do you see this one? 45 point, only 2 digits after the decimal point. I want to make it like this, but not as crazy as this one. How can I solve this? I'm gonna use something called toFixed. Okay, let's maximize this one, and after the monthly payment we're gonna write here .toFixed. Okay, bracket. Up to how many decimal points do I want? I'm gonna use 2 here. Save it. Let's see the result. There we go, 45.29. Okay, now I want this to be on the center. How can we do this? Let's come back here, and we're gonna use a variant as well. So we're gonna write here text align, this one. Okay, center, and we're gonna use variant as how much? H5 as an example. You can change the variant according to your wish. After saving everything, let's see the result. There we go. Okay, it is now on the center, and the variant changed to H5 as well. Alright guys, so far so good. The last thing that we have to build is the pie chart, and it will look something like this. Now guys, you might have a question like, where did I get this beautiful pie chart from? If you go to Google and if you write React charges -2, then you're gonna get the first link which says React charges -2. So if I click on this one, it's gonna take you to this page, and from this page I took this pie chart. Let's come back to the website. If we go to examples, then we can see the examples of different components like vertical bar chart, horizontal bar chart, line chart, area chart, so on and so forth. But we don't want any of them. We only want the pie chart. If you click on here, then we can see the example of a pie chart. Do you see this one here? On the left side, we have the code, and on the right side, we have the result. Okay, so slowly we're just gonna copy the entire thing. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna copy the first 4 lines. Let's copy them. Come back to our VS Code, and let's maximize this one. And where will we paste it? We're gonna paste it inside our result.js. Let's paste it like this, and now you see we have 2 statements which says import React from React. I will remove the second one. Okay, save everything. Let's go back to the website, and this time I need this one. You see, export const data. So what is this data? Do you see this one here? They have the labels red, blue, yellow, green, purple, orange. According to these labels, if you put your mouse here, you see the blue, that's the blue. If you put your mouse here, yellow, here is the yellow. If you put your mouse here, red, you see this one, red, this is your red. Okay, and these are your data sets. Do you see all the calculations that's happening? Look, the blue is very large compared to other shares. So how are these calculations happening? These are happening because of these data sets. Let's copy the entire thing. Okay, I mean the object. Let's copy this, come back to our VS Code, and we're gonna maximize this, and below our calculations we're gonna paste it like this. Okay, there we go. We have a lot of things here, and you see there is a error here because of the export statement. Let's remove this one and just keep const data equal to then our stuff. Guys, let's rename this one to something else. That's because we already have a word named data. We don't want to repeat the same keyword again somewhere else. So what we're gonna write here, we're gonna write here pie chart data. Okay, something like this. There we go. So that there is no naming conflict in our code. There we go. Okay, so now how do we render this into our result screen? We're gonna scroll down here, below the typography component we're gonna write here angle bracket pi. Okay, pi. We're gonna close the tags like this, and here we're gonna pass data equal to curly bracket. So what did we name it? We named it pie chart data, right? Let's copy this one, copy the pie chart data, come here, paste it, save it, and now let's look at the result. It will now look something like this. Okay, we have a little issue here. And why do we have this error, guys? That's because we didn't install React Chart.js. Let's go to the main home page, and do you see this one here? They have the installation commands. If you're using Yarn, copy this, put it on your terminal. If you're not using that, if you're using npm, click on this one, copy this. Since I'm using npm, I'm gonna copy this command, copy done, come back to our VS Code, maximize this. We're gonna open up a new terminal. Okay, so why am I opening up a new terminal? That's because, guys, on the old terminal our server is running. We don't want to stop this, so we open up a new terminal. Or what you can do, you can just click on the plus. It's gonna open up a new terminal for you like this. You have in total 3 terminals. Let's remove the last one. On the second one we're gonna paste the code, we're gonna hit enter, so that it installs React Chart.js -2 on our project. So guys, the installation is complete. Now let's look at our result. It will now look something like this. There we go. You see, we have the pie chart here, but we have a lot of data here. We don't want to work with a lot of data like red, blue, yellow, green, orange, so on and so forth. We only need 2 labels. The first one will be principal and the other one will be interest. Red color, blue color. So how can we edit these labels? Let's come back to our VS Code. Let's maximize this one and then scroll up to your labels. Do you see this one? I don't need these colors. I only need 2 things, which is principal and interest. So we're gonna write them down here. And on the data set we have a label which says hashtag, which is number of votes. I don't need this one. I'm gonna remove this one and write ratio of principal and interest. After saving everything, let's see the result on the browser. I'm gonna come here, refresh the code, and now look at this. We have 2 labels. One is principal and the other one is interest. If I put my mouse on any one of them, you see it says principal and the label says ratio of principal and interest. It's written 12. If I put my mouse here, you see it's not gonna show any labels. Besides, I don't need this extra shares. I have to remove them. So how can we remove these things? Let's go back to our VS Code, maximize this, and do you see this one here? How many data can you see here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Since there are 6 data, which means that we're gonna have 6 shares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 shares. I don't need all of these shares. I need only 2 data here. Let's remove all of them from here. The first thing that I need is the home value, which is this one. So let's copy this one, scroll down and put it here. Okay, home value, comma, total interest generated. I need this one. Copy this and put it here. There we go, done. Now let's save the thing and let's look at the result on the browser. I'm gonna come back here, refresh the code, and look at this, guys. If I put my mouse here, you see the principal amount is $3,000. That is because the home value is $3,000. And how much interest did you pay to the bank? For $2,400 at 5% interest for 5 years. If you put your mouse here, then you can see the total amount, which is almost $318. Okay, so let's go back to the VS Code. We still need to fix a couple of more things. Do you see the background color and the border color? You can set colors according to your choice and wish. Do you see this one? Red and blue. It is given to you by default. These 2 represents the red and the blue. We don't need the other colors, so we can remove the other 4 colors, and we can remove the 4 colors from here as well. In order to format the document, select everything, right click, format document like this. Okay, save the thing. Now let's see the result on the browser. There we go. Okay, Next up guys, we need to make this a little bit smaller and keep it on the center, something like this, you see. So how can we do something like this? Let's go back to our VS Code, and now below this typography we're going to use a stack component, okay, angle bracket STA, this one, okay. Then close the tags. Here we're going to write a direction of row, direction row. We're going to use justify content center, okay, justify content center, and inside here we're going to use a div, something like this, okay. Inside the div we're going to cut the pie chart, put it here like this. Now select everything, right click, format document, save it. Let's see the result. There we go. It is now on the center, but we have to align it center as well, just like this one, you see. It is both horizontally and vertically centered. Now in order to put the pie chart on the center, what we have to do, we have to go back to our VS Code. This time we're going to go back to our app.js here, okay. And then do you see this one here, grade container. Then we have some spacing. After the spacing we're going to use align items, okay, align items. We're going to set it to center because this is a great property. Save the thing. Let's see the result on the browser. There we go. Now it's on the exact center. If you want some spacing between this text and the pie chart, what you can do, we can just come back to your result.js, and here on the stack component we can write a gap equal to curly bracket 3. Save the thing. There we go, okay. There is a gap of 3 units here. If you don't see the difference, just write here 10. Save it, and you have a huge gap. Do you see the huge gap here? I don't need a huge gap there. I'm just gonna use 3. Save it. There you go. Now let's test the responsiveness of this project. We're gonna right click, inspect, okay. And now do you see the slider? If you don't see the slider, do you see this button? You have to toggle the button. So if you toggle the button, you can see this slider. I'm gonna make it bigger. You see that this is the design for the desktop version. If I make it smaller, then this is the design for the mobile version, which means that our project is responsive to the mobile screen as well, something like this, okay. Let's close this one and test our component. Now let's refresh the page and test our project. If I increase the down payment slider, something like this, do you see that it is also updating itself live? If I decrease it, then you can see that it's going to update itself automatically. Likewise, if I increase or decrease the other sliders, you can see that it's working perfectly fine. How about the tenure component? Let's select 25 years. You see, it's going to update as well. So it's working perfectly fine. And with this, our project is complete. Guys, I really hope that you learned a lot from this tutorial. If you like the video, give a like, share it with a friend, and feel free to subscribe. Till then, take care, and I'm gonna see you in the next video. Bye bye.